Welcome to Law and Crime Network. My name is Bob Bianchi. We're going to be taking it to 3 o'clock. In Davenport, Iowa, closing arguments are underway in the bench trial against Henry Dinkins, a convicted sex offender on trial for shooting to death 10-year-old Breasia Terrell. The defense chose to call no witnesses yesterday after the state had rested its case. We'll have more on that later. But for now, let's head out to South Carolina, where opening statements took place in a trial against a South Carolina mother and her boyfriend. The mother, one time being called Teacher of the Year. Both of these individuals are accused of leaving her teenage daughter trapped in a hot car for hours. Rita Pangalangan and Larry King are charged with murder for the death of Pangalangan's 13-year-old daughter, Cristina. The state says Cristina had cerebral palsy and was unable to care for herself, that she was nonverbal and in a wheelchair. According to authorities, temperatures reached as high as the 80s that day and could have gotten as high as 130 degrees inside of that car. Really a very obviously tragic case, and a lot of twists and turns on this one, as what the defense is versus some of the evidence the police gathered that belied that evidence. At least that's the allegation. Prosecutor Duffy Stone delivered the prosecution's opening statement. So let's head into the South Carolina courtroom and take a listen.
August 5th of 2019. These two people over here, Larry King and Rita Pangalangan, put a child in the back of a car and left it there for 5 hours and 41 minutes. So it was a hot day. At 11:15, when this all started, the heat index was already 89 degrees. It would get close to 100 by the time they ever got that child out of the car. And that was outside the car. That was out air temperature outside. Inside the cabin of the car, we reach a minimum of 118 degrees with a heat index of 135. So what happens when you put a child in the backseat of the car and leave them there for 5 hours and 41 minutes? They cook to death. They are tortured and they are cooked to death. The child's internal temperature, when checked by the coroner, is 109.9 degrees. And that's what we know. Because the thermometer doesn't go any higher than that. The child's brain gave up. The organs shut down. She had blisters all over her body. And she died in the backseat of that car. She died, the technical way, the scientific answer to that was hypothermia. You'll hear expert testimony telling you that the child died of hypothermia. But that's not why you're here. Because she didn't actually die of hypothermia. She died because those two people there treated that little girl like baggage. They didn't forget her. They didn't put her in the car and forget her. They put her in the car because to them, she was baggage. You see, the little girl wasn't like every other 13-year-old girl. She suffered from cerebral palsy. She couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. Her hands barely worked. She could not reach the car door to open it to free herself. She couldn't even scream for help. Not that they would have cared. She was totally dependent on other people for her safety. The other thing about her, again, not like a normal 13-year-old teenager, she couldn't be shipped off to go with her friends to the mall or something when Rita and Larry wanted to be along, or they wanted to do the things they were interested in. She had to be taken care of. She had to be watched and cared for. Or she had to be put somewhere out of the way. And on August the 5th, 2019, that place was the backseat of the car in direct sunlight. And what were they doing? They were high on meth. Objection, Your Honor.
Objection's overruled.
Not only were they high on meth, they were standing right in the car. They were swinging on the swing. They were hugging. They were kissing, all of which you'll see. And then they would go inside the house and stay there for hours. They would come out, Rita would smoke cigarettes, they would hug, and they would kiss, and go back in the house. All the time, the child was literally cooking to death in the car. She was to them baggage. And they needed to get out of the way so they could do what they needed to do. The decisions we all make every day, most of us have choices. Most of us have the ability to make decisions, how we act, what we do. And those choices have consequences. Rita Pangalangan chose to put that child in that car. She chose to focus her attention on Larry, to talk to him, to kiss him, to hug him, to go inside with her. She chose to do meth. Larry, same thing. He chose to put the child in the car. And I say put, that's gracious. You'll watch it on the video and see how he puts that child in the car. Just like he would a suitcase. And he chose to spend his time outside the car and inside the house with Rita and hugging and kissing. And on them. Those are choices that they made, and those choices have consequences. The only person in this case that didn't have a choice was Cristina. She had no choice. She was totally dependent on somebody else for her safety. And they didn't care. That's what this case is about. Now, my job is to prove to you this case beyond a reasonable doubt. What I told you. If I don't do that, your job is to come back here and find me not guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you after you hear the testimony, after you see the video of the case, after you see what happens with this child, to come back here and give us a verdict that speaks the truth. This child died not because of any other reason. I'm sorry. You have a matter of law for every time for that.
The objection is sustained as to the solicitor's reference to speak the truth, and you're to disregard that reference.
When this is over, I'm going to ask you to come back and give us a verdict that says this child died.
Wow, what a tragic case. Dr. Ken Lang is a retired homicide detective. He's with us, as well as Corey Pegues. He is a retired NYPD deputy inspector and author of the book, Once a Cop. Inspector, let me go to you first here. Just overall, I mean, very powerful. Prosecutor indicating, using words like cooking to death in the car while they're outside hugging and kissing and smoking cigarettes, and choices have consequences, but this victim, it gives me goosebumps to think about it, had no choices. How powerful was the opening statement to you, and what does your law enforcement experience tell you about where this case is going to go?
Oh yeah, very powerful opening statements. He said, treated her like baggage. You know, what stood out to me was how they say on video, you're going to see how he threw her in the car just like baggage. You know, when you have somebody with cerebral palsy, it's 24 hours, 365. We do know that. And some people are just not fit to do it. The good thing is, like, Bob, keep going back to the same thing. These cases really come down to electronic footprint. I'm glad that they have video. They're going to have so much video, seeing intermittently how they put it in the car at 11:15, came back an hour, checked on it, then came out 3 hours later, didn't even probably peep in the car and got in their vehicle and left. So all of this stuff is damaging to the defense. And I think with this electronic footprint and putting the other clues together, they're probably going to get a conviction, and they should, in my estimation, in my experience. This looks like it's going to be a case that's going to be found guilty.
Yeah, Doctor, to the point that the inspector is bringing up here, I mean, they have this surveillance video. I'm thinking back in the day when I was trying murder cases for the first time. We didn't have DNA, we didn't have surveillance, we didn't have phones, we didn't have computers, and somehow we were able to sneak convictions through. I don't know how when I look back on it, but here the allegation is going to be that they saw the victim being put in the car around 11:15 a.m. and they just shut the door and left her there, and 3 hours later came out and got in a King's truck, took off for about an hour and came back. What are your overall feelings about this case, and where do you think the defense is going? Are they going to try to go for a charge lesser than the murder charge in this case?
Yeah, so the defense is going to try to go to get rid of any intent with that, and I think it's going to be a difficult hurdle for them to get over because, as my colleague was saying, we have this digital footprint, so we have this video, and based on the dialogue that I'm hearing from the prosecutor in the opening, it looks like really the jury's going to have the opportunity not only to see the video, but to interpret for themselves what they're seeing as far as the body language of the two defendants and how they're interacting. It's really strange that they would put Cristina in this car, close it up, and then hang out and smoke their cigarettes, enjoy the music or whatever they're doing, and then get in the truck and take off and come back and check on her. As it just doesn't even seem reasonable or plausible. And so I conclude that I'm sure that a guilty finding will come back in this case.
Yeah, and to both of your guys' points, reasonable, and in addition to the fact that this is someone who completely is incapable physically and or mentally in being able to help themselves, which should have given them even a more heightened understanding of the dangers that this poor girl died under. Torturous, and I think the jury is going to see it that way. Okay, guys, great commentary. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the other end. Please stay with us.
I'm Brian Buckmeyer, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
This is Law and Crime Trial in a Minute.
I felt ill. I felt sick. There was no truth in it whatsoever.
Hollywood A-lister Johnny Depp sued his ex-wife, actress Amber Heard, for defamation after she accused him of abusing her in a Washington Post op-ed.
And he balled up his fists, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose.
But Depp said recordings and witnesses proved Heard was the abuser and a liar.
I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
She called him an old fat man.
It was a she said. They said full of surprises, watched around the globe.
In my head, instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs.
He never pushed me, kicked me, or threw me down any stairs.
The jury found Heard liable on all of Depp's claims.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
And Depp liable on one of Heard's. They settled during the appeal, Heard agreeing to pay Depp $1 million. For the Law and Crime Network, I'm Anjanette Levy.
Why is everyone talking about Navage and nasal irrigation?
The nasal congestion was probably the worst part.
It's just terrible. It really does affect your day-to-day.
Navage is simple. Your nose is the body's air filter, but it's not perfect. Navage is a drug-free way to help flush out allergens, mucus, and germs using powered suction. Join nearly 4 million Navage users so you can breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier.
You could just breathe, immediately breathe.
I could breathe.
Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Curious about trick plays and if ever prone. That local hero, national champ, now he's home and he's back to the same thing. Hey guys, am I dreaming or can we actually win this thing?
Buying a house is complicated and confusing, especially now. That's why who you work with matters.
Together with HomeLight, we find solutions for every buyer. Our team helps you get the home you love every time.
I'm Imran Ansari, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Welcome back. We're doing the Pangalangan trial, and as you know, we had the prosecutor's opening statement that we just heard. Very, very powerful, using descriptive words like the victim was cooking to death in the car that could have been upwards to 130 and 135 degrees, referring to the actions of the defendants as treating her like a suitcase because she was completely physically and emotionally incapable of fending for herself. Well, like you know, at every trial, there's going to be a defense, and rightly so. John Loy is a defense attorney for Larry King, who's a co-defendant in the case, and he began with his defense opening statement. So let's head into South Carolina and take a little listen as to what's going on in the courtroom from the defense's perspective.
In the case which I'll tell you now, it's both one of the easiest cases you could have been making, and in the second breath, one of the hardest. It's one of the easiest cases because, as you'll hear, probably several cases throughout the course of this trial, you as jurors are what we call the finders of the facts, or the judges of the facts. And during the course of the trial, it's your job, it's your primary duty during the course of the trial to determine what the facts are. His Honor is referred to as the judge of the law. At the appropriate time, he will tell you what the law is, he will apply it to the facts that you figure out. That part's not going to be hard. Okay? Y'all will come to an agreement as far as factually the sequence of actions that took place. That part may be hard. It'll be easy. On the other hand, y'all got to take for a really hard case. Because this child did expire. She died roughly by the manner of death that the solicitor described. And it's hard to listen to. It's hard to know. You've probably seen a newspaper article or a news story sometime about this happening in the past, if it has happened in the past. And it's a lot easier if you can turn the page and change the channel. Because it's real bad. There's no way to show you how to do it. Just listening to it is going to be hard. Secondly, the other part of the duty that's going to be hard is you are required to keep an open mind throughout this entire proceeding. That is, you don't keep a score. Here's a point, there's a point, there's a point, here's a point. You listen to the testimony as it comes in. You look at any exhibits or evidence that is introduced, and you file away and you get the complete picture. And at the end of the case, when the judge has given you the law and told you to take it back, he's giving you the indictment, he's put the case in your lap, and he says, go on back to the jury room and deliberate. That's when you begin to decide what's appropriate. Until then, you just don't have the rules to do it. The rules by now, the rules of law, the rules of the game. So you're required to keep an open mind. And I can see sometimes that's hard because it may have been hard to keep an open mind just having heard that dramatic statement. And that was dramatic. But you got to put that aside, watch it all, and once the judge gives the case to you, you apply the law, and you decide it further. Now, in this case, the facts are going to substantially not be in dispute, I don't believe. In fact, the evidence in this case will show you that Mr. King and Ms. Pangalangan had in the past, several years ago, been involved in a relationship, a romantic relationship. It didn't work out, and they split up. And maybe a month, 5 weeks, a month, before this tragedy occurred, they had gotten back together. They had reunited. And that, ladies and gentlemen, It's one of the worst decisions that Mr. King ever made for this family. They got back together. They didn't live together. It wasn't like that. She had a house on the other side of town. He had his place. But they were dating, and they continued to relationship. And on this particular evening, the night before this child died, Miss Pangalangan and her child had spent the night at this kid's house. And in the morning, Mr. King, he had reason to believe that Miss Pangalangan had been unfaithful or messed around with another guy or something like that during the time that they got back together. And he confronted her on that. And they went back and forth a little bit. She said, yes, this happened. And at that point, he told her, now, he's not raging or any of that stuff. But he said, yes, it happened. He said, y'all got to go. I can't deal with this right now. I'll talk to you later. But y'all have to go. And they went back and forth a little bit. Miss Pangalangan said, okay. But I can't carry Cristina, as you've heard, but you know, that I can't carry her. My back is hurt. I've got a kid itch. And Larry said, I'll carry her. And I didn't, well, you will have a chance to view this video. And what the videotape will show you is that Mr. King came out of the door, cradling this child in his arms, completely appropriately, completely properly. Nothing abusive or disrespectful about it, nothing rude or wrong. He carried this child. He's not fighting with this Pangalangan. There's nothing that makes him look angry, mean, malicious, or hateful toward this child. He carries the child to the car, appropriately, into a sick bed. The back door's open. When he gets there, he has to turn the child, so she goes in feet first and not hit first. And he does that. He turns her in his arms. And he places her in the car. He backs up, and his mom goes over and do what she needs to do to prepare the child to travel. Put the seatbelt on, and what she does, and you can see Mom in the back. That's what the child. Mom steps away and closes. At this point, Mr. King's out of the picture. The child is out of his house. He's in Mom's car. The door's closed. He's asking to leave. Y'all are on your own. She's not his child. She's not his adopted child. He doesn't pay for her. He doesn't bathe her, wash her. He doesn't feed her. He's not financially responsible for it. Mom's child is put her in his heart. So y'all need to. This Pangalangan turns around. The video, the solicitor records, doesn't have audio, but it's pretty easy to follow the conversation that ensues. And y'all will see that Miss Pangalangan is pleading the case. I'm sorry, can we get past this? And Larry is telling her, you need to go. And they go back and forth for a while. Now, the car's running. Larry has every reason to believe the air conditioning's on. The child is in the custody of her mother, who is raised at this point. And Mom has got this child. He turns and he walks into his house, and Mom walks behind. Sometime later, Mom comes out, goes to the car. Looks like she opens the back door, perhaps checks on the child, everything okay. Gets in the front seat momentarily, gets back out, comes out another time, just 2 times, checks on the child, goes back into the house. And after approximately 2 hours after the child is left at home, the 2 of them come out, and the tape is obvious. They can't get in the car. The car's locked. It's running. It's locked. Now, whether the key fob is in the car, or lost under the bed in the house, or the dog ran off with it, it really doesn't make any difference. It's obvious they're trying to get into the car. Now, Mr. King at this point, he's a volunteer. He's trying to help. I mean, there's a legal obligation here for that. But he says he goes to the shed and he gets a wedge and he tries to go through the window and get the car door open. He can't get it open. He can't get it open. He offers. Well, can I break a window? Just bust out a window and that'll do it. It doesn't seem like an emergency at this point. This AC's doing running in the car. And I just bust out the window. Mom says no, it'd be cheaper for us to run to my house and I'll pick up the other key fob and we'll come out. Okay, and again, Shirley doesn't, maybe not as feelings hurt earlier, but he's trying to help. And they get in the car and drive Mom to her house.
Hi, Inspector. I think this is interesting. So when a lawyer is saying the facts really aren't in dispute, where it appears to me they may be going as an argument with regard to the law. Now, I asked the producers, and I could be, wrong about this, but I just kind of want to throw it out there as a former homicide prosecutor. Not really a big fan of the death penalty, although I've tried them. I have to tell you, if it were a death penalty eligible offense, and I'm not saying it is under the state law, typically speaking, they would talk about victims who are vulnerable, usually the elderly, clearly somebody in the condition that this victim would be in that vulnerable position. And also the fact that it was done in a horrendous and heinous nature, the actual way that death is literally cooking to death, as the prosecutor said. So irrespective of what their state law is like allowing here or not allowing here, if the state law did allow for a death penalty, since there is a conspiracy charge here, this would kind of seem like if there's a kind of case you go for it, you would go for it. Now, again, I don't know what the reasons why, but I mean, it's that bad in my mind. Your thoughts?
Oh, most definitely. And I'm along the same lines with you. I don't necessarily believe in the death penalty, but there are some people that need to be locked up and the key thrown away for life. And if it's a possibility for the death sentence, oh, well, be it. Like you said, this was horrendous. This child literally baked to death. There's times that me and you are, in situations and it's hard to breathe. Can you imagine? And that's for like 20 seconds you're trying to catch your breath. Can you imagine for hours this poor child? We don't know the extent of when she actually perished, but this was torturous.
Yeah, and doctor, let me ask you, as a retired homicide, we've done a lot of these kinds of cases. I've done them for a 30-year career. You've done many of them as well. Talk to our audience about the idea that you kind of, you do your job, you compartmentalize, you go about it. Sometimes it can be very routine, another death, another murder, another whatever, but then there's every now and again that kind of case where you literally have to step back and emotionally are exhausted. I would imagine that would be this kind of case.
No question. Any case involving children, and we're covering 2 children cases today on the show. Anytime you had these child deaths, they're just heart-wrenching. But you have, as a homicide detective, you have to go in and you have to get the information. You have to compose yourself and stay in control of yourself. But that doesn't say that you don't go off to the side room and weep for these children and what they went through. Poor Cristina here. The prosecutor talked about baking to death, but, we have more formal conversations with the medical examiner about that process and what that looks like. And so for her, when the temperatures rose to these heat, her brain begins to shut down, it begins to swell, and it begins shutting down the organs in her body. And at the same time, she's developing blisters on her body. And that's indicative to say that she had actually suffered for a great deal of time, because once you've died, none of your body systems are going to generate these blisters. And so I think that's important and indicative. But then when you take the totality of that in, yeah, it's hard, and it's hard to take that home, and you have to take time for yourself, and you have to take time and appreciate and love on your own family when you get home.
You bring a really interesting point, doctor. I mean, when I was trying murder cases, a lot of times we would bury the pathologist kind of in the middle of the case, because perfunctorily we would have to show cause and manner of death, but it really wasn't a big issue in that case. This one, I'm wondering whether the prosecutor early on is going to call the pathologist, because the description of the manner and mechanism of death is going to be pretty brutal and make a big impact on the jury. And of course, you don't want to bury that kind of testimony. We'll see strategically how they go about the placement of the forensic pathologist. All right, guys, great commentary. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the other end. Please stay with us.
I'm Jesse Weber, and you're watching Law and Crime.
I'll never forget the day I nearly died. I was a young journalist with a great career, starting a family. The only way we found out I had any kind of heart issue was when I went into sudden death. My coworkers sprung into action. They'd recently been trained in life-saving CPR protocols developed by the American Heart Association. They're the ones that kept me alive until the medics came. They did many tests on me in the hospital after my cardiac arrest and found my arrhythmias and created a treatment plan. My pacemaker, my defibrillator, different surgical procedures I've been, all with research from the American Heart Association. That makes it pretty personal. I think unless you are a heart disease patient, you may not know how much work the American Heart Association does behind the scenes to save your life. That's why I'm doing everything I can to pay it forward, and I urge you to become a monthly donor. Your support will help get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital to be certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, the next medical breakthrough, one that could save your life or the life of someone you love.
Heart disease kills 1 in 5 Americans, and we urgently need your help to save lives. Go to helpheart.org or call now to become a monthly donor today.
When you become a monthly donor, you'll help sustain life-saving work all year long. And when you start your monthly gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you'll get a t-shirt like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my cardiac arrest, I've had 2 more children. I've watched all 3 of my children grow into adulthood. I'm going to cry now. Graduate from college. My daughter got married. I have grandchildren. And I'm still here. Call now or visit helpheart.org to become a monthly donor today. Because it's personal.
Mom, we're so glad you're feeling better. You gave us such a scare.
I know, honey. Me too. But I want you to know I'm at peace with my homegoing when my time is up. And did I also tell you that I got coverage for my funeral so you and your brother would not have to worry about expenses?
I didn't know you were saving money for your final expenses.
I haven't. I called Open Care, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $30,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
That's wonderful, Mom. But how did you pass your medical exam with your health condition?
Oh, that's the best part. No medical exam is needed.
That's right, and my rates can never increase, my benefits will not decrease, and my coverage will never be canceled.
Mom, I'm so glad you called.
You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. We don't want to leave our loved ones with debt. The cost of a funeral can be $8,000 or more. A final expense life insurance plan will pay up to $30,000, which can be used for funeral and other final expenses. Call 800-434-4130 now for your free information. You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. There's no obligation. Call 800-434-4130. That's 800-434-4130.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and you are watching Law and Crime.
All right, we're still in South Carolina for the defense attorney, John Loy. He is the attorney for Larry King, a co-defendant in the case, delivering his opening statement. Let's listen to a little bit more.
They come back, and you watch the video again, and there's a little bit of issue. They have trouble getting in the car. They do get the car door open, and Mom opens the door, and they find that the child is deceased. There's 2 things that the state has to do every time they call an indictment to trial or if they do those two things, they win every time. If they fail on either one of those 2 things, they lose it. First, they have to prove that the crime alleged in the indictment, the charging statement, that you'll have in your security, the crime alleged in the indictment happened. They always have to prove the crime. I can't prove the crime happened. They sure can't prove anyone else. If it's a robbery case, they have to prove somebody got robbed. If it's stealing a car, they have to prove a car got stolen. They have to prove that the crime happened. And secondly, they have to prove that the defendant, the person charged, is the one who committed the crime. In this case, Mr. King, I'm only concerned with Mr. King. Ms. Pangalangan has her own attorney, her own defenses. She's not on my plate. I'm not here to shoot her or to defend her. I'm here on Mr. King's behalf. And he has 3 indictments. He has an indictment for murder. Murder is a very specific crime. It's a very specific term of art. And the judge will instruct you on what it is at the close of this case. But when you apply the law as the judge instructs it to you, to the facts that you have found, it will be substantially as I have described. You will find that at least as relates to Mr. King, there is no grounds, there is no basis, there is no way that he is guilty of murder. It's just not. It can be proven from the charges. Whatever happened there as relates to Mr. King is not a murder. It's a tragedy. It's a heartbreak. It doesn't make it a murder. Secondly, he has a crime of causing great bodily injury to a child. And as you watch this video, you'll see that what he does is bring this child out of the house, place the child in the back seat of the car, relinquish any control, custody, claim, obligation, or right to this child to her mother, and step away and say, don't go. And there's nothing about his involvement when he carries this child, handles this child, puts this child in the car, that's any way going to injure her. Further, you'll hear under the law, the statute doesn't even look at lying. They're not the ones that do it. Last, there's an indictment for conspiracy. And you'll have that indictment in your hearing also. And I will tell you now, I will tell you unapologetically, that indictment is a garbage indictment. It's the last straw. It's to throw it in there and see what happens. There's nothing to this. Read this indictment. It says the 2 of them conspired to do something. It doesn't say what. I don't believe for a minute the solicitors can have the audacity to close this case to get up and tell you that Mr. King conspired with someone to murder this child. Conspiracy means 2 people come together with a plan to commit a criminal act or accomplish some criminal intent, that they got together and said, how will we kill this child? Objection. Not at all conspiracy. The judge will instruct you. See?
Yeah, the judge, I will instruct you as to the law. You may proceed.
The judge will instruct you as to the law. So, they may have conspired to murder this child. They may have gotten together for some wicked plan. How can we hurt this child? Or conceivably, it could be a conspiracy to cover up what happened after they discovered that the child was deceased. They might be in trouble. And in support of that, the state's probably going to show you that when the law enforcement was called, when they responded, Mr. King was as honest, as helpful, as straightforward as he could be. He told them what happened. He said, we were in the yard. I put her in the car. I thought the air conditioning was running. Everything seemed okay. Mom went back outside. 2 hours went by. Oh, my God, I can't believe this. Miss Pangalangan's story did not align with that. Her presentation was something different. And if you hear those, it's obvious they're not together on this. They are miles apart. Most of what you need to know about Mr. King's evil heart and desire to hurt someone in difference to life would be revealed to you when you listen to a 911 call that day. Because his heart would have been crushed. Any allegation he's been different, mean, malicious, falls in the face of that tape recording itself. If I've talked too long, I'm sorry. It's a pretty important day. And if nothing else, please try to honor the oath and keep an open mind until the end of this case and you decide when the judge is. Okay? If you do that, even though I know it's hard, I know that people have a tendency to prejudge, if you don't do that, then this goes to what a lot of us would call a sacred procedure. That is, if you are called to judge your fellow man into something more of a farce. You don't let that happen.
All right, doctor, what do you think? Are you persuaded by the defense, making you think twice, making you think maybe there could be some reasonable doubt, or do you think the prosecutor won the day with their graphic depiction of this death?
So Larry's defense attorney took the obvious route of throwing the other defendant under the bus, and which is something that we see often when you're trying co-defendants together, right? Who is more culpable in this? And so he asked the jurors to keep an open mind, to think about the facts of the case. I believe there was some mention about they thought that the car was running and the AC was on, and that Larry had stepped up to help Rita, indicating the culpable issue there. But then also he then turns and focuses on some of the elements of the law, and is indicating that the state is not going to be able to reach at least what a reasonable person may think is tantamount to the charges that they're filed against them here. So I'm not really convinced with this approach. I think the state had a very stronger opening, and I think that now Rita's defense attorney is starting to wonder about some of the statements he'll be making in his opening.
Well, let me ask you just as a follow-up, does that mean in your mind, and I hate when people ask this and it's so unfair, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway because that's what we do in TV commentary world, more likely that he's going to take the stand based on that opening statement?
I think so. I think there's a good chance he takes the stand to support what the opening statements were from his attorney, that the culpability really falls on Rita.
Okay, Inspector, very interesting conversation here. Tactics, trial tactics going on, co-defendants being tried at the same time, little push towards, and there could be truth in this. I mean, we've handled these kind of cases where somebody's more culpable, less culpable, maybe not at all culpable. What are your thoughts where the defense is going? The defendant going to take the stand here and basically say, hey, I had nothing to do with any kind of quote-unquote conspiracy, an agreement to commit a murder?
Oh, most definitely, like Dr. Lang said, he definitely threw her under the bus. But this is going to be pretty interesting to see when her defense come up, because they're going to be blaming each other for culpability. But the bottom line is they're both culpable. They're adults. They were in charge. You know, the defense attorney said earlier that, like, my poor client, the worst thing that ever happened to him was getting back with this woman. Really? Really getting back with the woman? I think the worst thing he ever did was have some culpability and frying his child alive.
Yeah, listen, guys, I mean, really interesting commentary. There's a lot of tactics going on here because he is not responsible for her. It's the mother that's responsible for her. So this is really going to be interesting to see whether or not there's going to be a finger-pointing aspect to this particular trial. We will wait and see. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Linda Kenny Bodden, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Love you. Have a good day. Behave yourself.
Like, she goes to work at 3 in the afternoon and sometimes gets off at midnight. She works a lot. A whole lot. We don't get to eat in the early morning. We just wait till we get to the school. So, yeah.
Right now, here in America, millions of kids like Victoria and Andre live with hunger, and the need to help them has never been greater. But when you join your friends and neighbors to support No Kid Hungry, you'll help hungry kids get the food they need.
If we want to take care of our children, then we have to feed them.
Your gift of just 63 cents a day, only $19 a month at helpnokidhungry.org right now, will help provide healthy meals and hope.
We want our children to grow and thrive and to just not have to worry and face themselves with the struggles that we endure. Nobody wants that for their children.
Like, if these programs didn't exist, me and AJ, we wouldn't probably get lunch at all.
Please call or go online right now with your gift of just $19 a month. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this limited edition t-shirt to show you're part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives.
If you're coming in hungry, there's no way you can listen to me teach, do this activity, work with this group. So starting their day with breakfast and ending their day with this big, beautiful snack. It's pretty incredible.
Whether kids are learning at school or at home, your support will ensure they get the healthy meals they need to thrive. Because when you help feed kids, you feed their hopes, dreams, and futures. Kids in your community and across America need you now more than ever. Call or go online to help NoKidHungry.org right away and help feed hungry kids today.
Your dinner party was a hit. Your dishwasher took a hit. Your teen is giving laundry a try. Your dryer left you hung out to dry. Date night with the crush. Your toilet won't flush. Luckily, American Home Shield is there to fix or replace covered appliances and home systems to help you stay on course and budget. Protect what you don't expect. Visit ahs.com and get a free quote today.
People said I was crazy to do this. I wanted something different, radical, and fun. Born on the beach in San Diego, now rocked with pride worldwide. Welcome to your new favorite shades.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
I need gas money, but I don't get paid till next week. What should I do?
Don't even stress about it. Just download the Earn It app to get paid early. Get up to $100 a day with no interest or credit check.
Download Earnin.
I'm a pet person just like you. If my pet ever got hurt or sick, it would just break my heart, and possibly the bank. So I got a pet insurance plan from Pumpkin. Bad things happen to good pets all the time. Pet insurance from Pumpkin. Get it before you need it.
All right, we're back in South Carolina. We just heard the opening statement by the defense for Larry King. Of course, the main defendant in this case is the mother of the victim, Rita Pangalangan. She also was once, at some point in time, believe it or not, Teacher of the Year. So let's listen to the opening statement from Pangalangan's defense attorney, Dwayne Phillips.
Mr. Phillips.
As a father of two girls and a baby boy, I know a parent's worst nightmare is the loss of their life. That death is unimaginable. In this case, what happened that day is an absolute tragedy. Let me say that again. What happened that day was an absolute tragedy. We know and accept mistakes were made, that things should have been done differently. There's a lot that happened in this case. There are a lot of things that you're going to see and hear that invoke raw emotion. Raw emotion. And you swore before God to ensure that you hold the government to that burden. Proof that this case was murder. This case is about a lot of things, but it's not murder. All the evidence from which you make a decision has to come directly from that witness stand. When you took that sworn oath, if after you heard the government's opening, you felt like you kind of it made your mind up, you violated that oath. Now, I'm not saying that to attack you. I'm saying that because we haven't heard any evidence yet. And you have a chance to take a step back and do this the right way, the way you swore an oath to do. To listen to what actually occurred. We wouldn't be here if the government wasn't seeking to convict Rita of murder. She's not guilty of murder. We accept responsibility. Mistakes were made. She should have done things differently. In having that ability, it is her living nightmare. Wake up in the morning and go to bed, and that's all she thinks about. Is what she could have done differently. If anybody's made a mistake, and they've had that opportunity where they think 1,000 times in their heads, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have broke the window, I should have been more urgent, I shouldn't have left her in the car. She owns this. It's on her soul. This is not a murder case. This is not a murder case. It's a lot of things. One that she'll have to pay for. She'll have to pay a price. There's right. There are consequences for your action, but it's not murder. I don't want to minimize that. We're not going to make any excuses in this trial for what happened. Like I said, it's going to invoke raw emotion. It invokes raw emotion from me. Nobody's going to downplay that. Now, again, the government has to try to show that she's guilty of murder beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, how? Well, you can ask yourself, why do we believe she's not guilty of murder? Well, I contend, and certainly you can ask yourself this, if the government believes she was guilty of murder, why 3 years later do they charge her with great bodily injury or infliction of great bodily injury to a child? If they believe she was truly guilty of murder, why hedge the bet? Why charge her with something else? They were solely based on that. And I contend there is zero evidence of a conspiracy. Zero. Absolutely none. This case is on video. It's a surveillance cam from Mr. King's residence. There's no smoke and mirrors here. It's all there for you to see. All there for you to evaluate.
Dr. Lang, I got a million things firing in my brain right now. He gets up there, let's take the last one first, that they're not guilty of a conspiracy, which may actually be something that helps the co-defendant in the case more than it actually helps his client. Delivered a decent opening statement, but I'm also thinking, let's keep in mind here, there were 4 or 5 previous neglect reports against the mother that were investigated. I don't know, and I'm trying to find out whether or not those are going to be admitted as 404 evidence, other act evidence to rebut that very statement that the lawyer made. So either it's coming in already, but if it's not, and the prosecutors tried, I would be going and saying, now, Judge, after that opening statement, those neglect complaints need to come out because it goes to absence of mistake, it goes to intent, it goes to motive. If they do come out, in light of everything else we heard from the prosecution, that is not going to bode well, at least for Ms. Pangalangan. What do you think?
No, absolutely. Yeah, if those previous neglects can come in, and they can, especially with regard to the content of them, then this is not going to bode well for them. And then especially tie that into what the medical examiner will say as far as their justification for ruling this a homicide and not an accidental death. The two paired together is going to be devastating for the defense.
And Inspector, let me ask you, I mean, the same kind of question, but sometimes you can get a ruling where evidence is actually excluded, and then the defense can open up the door. But what did you think about the idea saying there's no evidence whatsoever of conspiracy? Doesn't that really help the co-defendant, Mr. King, in this case, more than his client?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I thought that was a bombshell statement. All right, now I wrote that down, a bombshell statement for him to say. Pretty much now the other defense attorney is going to be going up there saying, listen, you see, there's no conspiracy. Her attorney, laid it out here in court. There is no conspiracy, so that charge should be taken off. I mean, I couldn't believe that he said that.
Yeah, and Dr. Lang, I mean, I'd imagine going down the road, they're going to use that exactly. That even the defense attorney, to their detriment, made this statement, co-defense attorney, in the case. And there's nothing that is connective tissue. Maybe he didn't know about the previous neglect. Maybe he didn't know about what was going on in the car. You have to show that he was part of an enterprise or a conspiracy or an agreement to commit a murder. Did you see that as a major faux pas?
Yeah, absolutely. And then coupled with the statement that she owns this, my gosh, in addition to that bombshell, yeah, absolutely. I think that the jury's going to walk away with this, putting this solely square on her shoulders.
Yeah, got to be very careful. I mean, I think he did a nice delivery. I don't know the case as well as they do, so you hate to second guess it, especially so early in the proceeding. But I think we're listening to it for the first time, too, just like a jury's listening to it for the first time. So it'll be interesting in the beginning what their psychology is. Everything. Inspector, I know you got to go. I really appreciate you having you on. We're going to be back with the doctor on the other end and a new guest. We'll be right back.
Terry Austin, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. But I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me.
When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, I know you have it right there, and call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
Hey there, everybody. Jesse Weber here. I am very excited to announce that my show Prime Crime is going from 30 minutes to 1 hour. That's right. We are extending the length of these episodes. We are going to spend more time telling the stories and breaking down the evidence of these compelling, memorable, and important cases. We're going to continue to focus on the heart-pounding body cam footage.
That was a slick move, man. Very slick.
That ain't mine, man.
Go ahead and put your hands
No,
on
hell no, that ain't mine. Revealing 911 phone calls.
Is he conscious right now? No, he is not conscious. Is he breathing? He is not breathing. Did he just collapse? We have no idea. Somebody just found him on the floor.
Intense interrogations.
You know they found this girl, right?
Is she good?
No, she's not. She's dead.
That ain't my problem.
And interviews with the players in the case.
He said to me on several occasions, everything will be okay as long as I hide the steak knives.
So be on the lookout for new episodes of our now 1 hour show.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-452-2083, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-452-2083. 800-452-2083.
I'm Michelle Yu, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Welcome to Law and Crime Network. If you're just joining us, I'm going to be here till 3 o'clock. We got some really great guests and some interesting trials. The judge heard closing arguments today in the bench trial against Henry Dinkins, a convicted sex offender, on the trial in the shooting and death of 10-year-old Bianchi Terrell. Terrell is the half-sister of the defendant's son. She went missing during an overnight stay at the defendant's home in 2020. The defense chose to call no witnesses yesterday after the state rested its case, and the fate of Henry Dinkins will lie in the hands of Judge Latham. That's right, not a jury trial. So we are going to go right now into Prosecutor Kelly Cunningham, who delivered the closing arguments for the state. Let's take a listen to how that went in court.
So then the question, very simply, is this: what happened after everyone went to sleep? We know definitively what happened in that apartment at 3 o'clock. We know that Andrea woke up to go to the bathroom. She noted Henry Dinkins wasn't there. She walks into the bedroom. She doesn't have her glasses on, but Briasia is not up there on the right side of the bed. DL is still down at the base of the bed, asleep. Andrea goes to the bathroom, thinks, let me get my glasses on to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. She puts her glasses on. Briasia's not there. She checks throughout the apartment. Briasia's not there. Andrea Culberson is very clear. At no point in time did Mr. Dinkins ever wake her up and indicate that he was going to be leaving that apartment with Briasia, that there was a potential medical emergency, that he had to take her to the hospital, that maybe the child was missing her mother and wanted to go home. There were no communications whatsoever. Andrea Culberson did not feel comfortable at all with her discovery. Now, Andrea Culberson testified she'd been involved in a relationship with Mr. Dinkins for 6 years. And she is not feeling comfortable at all. She feels so uncomfortable, she tells in her or describes for the court in her testimony that she didn't even want to think about the possibilities of why Mr. Dinkins was gone and why Briasia was gone. Aisha Langford gives us a very definitive time of 3:30. Based on the clock on her desk, she said that she's sitting there in the dark. Mr. Dinkins very quietly unlocks the door and very quietly comes up the stairs into the apartment in such a way so as not to awake anyone. Mr. Dinkins, of course, was not anticipating that Andrea Culberson would be up and would have discovered that both he and Briasia were gone from the apartment. Now, I'm going to step outside this conversation. I want to take us to the time frame of 8:55 in the morning out of the Jersey Meadow apartment complex, when Officer Burkle had responded to that location. In Mr. Dinkins' conversations with Officer Burkle, he created the impression that he wasn't familiar with this apartment complex and didn't even live there. And if the court will go back and reflect to the video footage that was collected from Officer Burkle's body-worn camera, Officer Burkle had said, you know, I know this sounds strange, but oftentimes when children come up missing, if law enforcement goes in and we do a search, we end up finding the children in closets or under the beds. Would you mind if I went into the apartment and conducted a search? What was Mr. Dinkins' response? We've already searched the area. Officer Burkle persists.
All right, Bernarda Villalona is with us. She's a former senior homicide prosecutor and trial attorney. And Dr. Ken Lang, retired homicide detective, is still with us. Bernarda, let me go to you first. I'm always curious about the tactical decisions that are made in a situation like this to go bench trial as opposed to jury trial. Can you give us some insights as a former prosecutor, and I know you do criminal defense and lots of other trial work, as to how that strategic decision gets made?
So, Bob, thank you for having me. So when we're talking about making a decision of whether to go bench or to rest your fate on 12 individuals, you have to take a lot into account. But mainly this was the defense attorney who said, you know what, I want to go bench because I want to take the emotional factor, the emotional effects of presenting this case, of arguing my case from a jury, because you don't want the jury to make their determination just based on emotion. Here we know this is a tragic incident. We're talking about the body of a 10-year-old child who was found with a gunshot wound. And one thing that you have to think about as a defense attorney, that when you're talking about facts like that, and any homicide is tragic, but especially when you're talking about a young child, that a jury may take into account and stop focusing on the evidence and instead base their verdict and bring a verdict of guilty, because we're talking about a 10-year-old child who was entrusted in the care of this defendant. When you're dealing with a bench trial, less antics, less of a show. You're not performing for a jury. The judge knows and is able to put emotion aside. We're supposed to put emotion aside and base their decision, their verdict, on the evidence that is presented and the arguments that are made. So for the defense, this is a win, or the best chances of winning is by presenting the case to a judge instead of a jury in cases like this.
Let me follow up with that, because I think there's also a second component to it, and it may be included in your answer. The defense still has to be confident that there may be either a legal issue or a factual issue that's significant enough where they believe a singular judge would not cave to the pressure of the emotions, less so than a jury. Do you think that that's a part of the decision making too, that they felt that there was the defense felt there was some weaknesses in the case?
Absolutely, 100%. Because when we're talking about a legal issue, who's in the best predicament to make a decision based on the law is going to be the judge. So usually when you're dealing with a jury trial, the jury is the judge of the facts, and the judge, of course, is the judge of the law. However, when you're dealing with a jury trial, they are applying the facts to the law. So you're expecting that these 12 civilians who aren't attorneys, who aren't trial attorneys, who aren't criminal defense or prosecutors, to make a decision, and that you know is based at least a part of emotion. When you're talking about the judge is able to evaluate that legal issue because of his specialty and the understanding of the law itself. And again, most importantly is that as a defense attorney, you're hoping that the judge is going to put emotion aside and is not going to give more credibility or weight to the prosecution. Instead, focus on the issues that are in front of him and make a decision based on that, especially when you're talking about a 10-year-old child that was killed.
Well, and a doctor, I'm going to get to you. We've had you all last hour, but I got to ask Bernarda this question. Now, I'm going to get into a territory that I've always had a problem with. When I was appointed prosecutor, it was by the governor, and it's to a term of office. And so you were pretty much free and unfettered to do what you believe to be the independent thing. In other states, they're elected. I believe down there the judges may be elected. There is some pressure and component in my mind for prosecutors and judges who are elected, because they've got to worry about being re-elected and they've got to worry about the court of public opinion. Does that play into this at all?
Absolutely, 100%. We're here where we're at in New York. Remember that the prosecutors are actually elected in New York. We're in New York City, they're elected. So in talking about an elected prosecutor, who do they answer to? The people of that county, the people who put them in office, the people that entrusted them with this high duty to protect the people of that county and the people of that state. So the people in that county is expecting that the prosecutor, you see a crime has been committed, a violent crime like this has been committed, and we expect of you to prosecute this case and to gain a conviction of this case. So that's why a lot of times prosecutors who are elected, or even those that are appointed, come on, let's be real, you always are answering to someone. The question is who you're answering to. You have to provide them with results. And here the prosecutor knows this is a televised trial. This is a trial that people are going to know forever. A trial that will probably come up in your next election, this case itself. So what do you have to say and show for yourself, Mr. Prosecutor, in a case such violent just as this? Are you holding up that duty that we entrusted in you?
Yeah, you know, Dr. Lang, I'd be interested in your thought process about this, because Bernard is not incorrect. I mean, in order, when you're appointed, you still come through a political process. The governor has to appoint you. You have to have consent of the Senate. But yeah, it's still, though, a lot less than like a la the Duke lacrosse case, where in many, many other cases that we've seen, where you got to worry about votes, you got to worry about donors, you got to worry about money. All these things, to me, can make it very difficult. The reason I'm bringing this up is it puts more pressure. I would be more confident with an independent judge that has tenure and can't be taken off the bench, as opposed to one that can make a decision that upsets the community and lose their election, lose their money, lose their support. And despite how laudable everybody says they want to be, my experience informs me that these things can be massive pressure on the singular finder of fact. What are your thoughts?
So I completely agree with that. And as an investigator, I can tell you that these types of things actually linger in the back of your mind while you're wrestling with the facts and the evidence in the front of your mind and making decisions as you work your way through that investigative pathway. You have as an investigator, you have a sense of how the local courthouse works in the jurisdiction where you're sworn to do these investigations. And in so doing, you have an idea of how the judges are, whether they're elected or whether they're appointed or what have you, and you know where you're at in the election cycle. So you have to think about these investigations and the decisions you're making, because when the defense has the opportunity to make a decision whether they're going to go jury or they're going to go bench trial, the quality of the investigation could very well fall apart if you were banking on the idea that the emotions would tie into the 10-year-old victim here, as opposed to not having quite enough of the information or evidence that you need to put the gun in the defendant's hand, which is something more legally that the judge is going to look for in those aspects.
Yeah, and you know, I know our audience may find this odd, but we do look at who our judge is, what jurisdiction we're in. Literally, in my state, you could walk across a county line and the crimes would be completely different. The jury pool is completely different. One could be pro-prosecution, pro-state. Judges can be pro-prosecution, pro-state. There's so much relational human dynamics that go into a decision like this. Well, I guess we'll see whether or not it's a good choice or not, but we're not going to be able to know that for a while. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Bob Bianchi, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. And your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
The hustle and bustle of daily life has you stressed out. You deserve a break with the Incense Waterfall, the most beautiful way to naturally feel like your stress and anxiety are melting away. Just light the incense cone and feel the stress melt away as smoke cascades down the waterfall, bringing calm and relaxation to all. Unlike ordinary incense that use sawdust and other fillers, incense waterfalls are 100% natural and soak every cone in 100% pure essential oils to keep you relaxed all day long. Essential oil aromatherapy naturally eases stress and anxiety to improve psychological and physical well-being, and they smell great too. Try lemongrass to relax and unwind with a good book and a cup of tea. Turn your regular yoga session into a blissful experience with orange, or fall asleep faster and longer with lavender. Incense Waterfall offers 10 different scents that are designed to calm the body and relieve stress.
I really love all the different scents that it has, but my favorite is the orange because it lifts my mood and alleviates my stress.
The lavender scent relaxes me, especially right before I go to bed.
Incense Waterfall is going viral online with people all over the world giving 5-star reviews and an excellent score on Trustpilot because they look great, smell great, and can help you relax, refresh, and rejuvenate. We're so sure that you'll love it. We're offering you a 60-day risk-free trial. If you're not 100% satisfied, we'll send you a complete refund of the purchase price. Call or go online, and with this special TV offer, you can get your own Incense Waterfall for the low price of only $19.95. And if you order today, we'll throw in 100 all-natural essential oil incense cones free.
Get your 60-day risk-free trial now. Go to trywaterfall.com or call 800-279-5895. That's 800-279-5895. Call now.
I'm Michael Bryant, and you're watching Law and Crime.
We're still in Iowa versus Henry Dinkins. Let's take a listen to a little bit more of the prosecutor Kelly Cunningham's closing arguments.
He leaves at 3:38 a.m. and then a particular import is mile marker 124 at 3:44 and again at 3:45 when Detective Obert looked at the video surveillance feed from the DOT. It showed a sedan passing. Now we can't see what it is, but those variables are very important, particularly when we go to what happened with Jared Brink. And then we throw those time variables into the time variable of what was determined up in the area of Cunal Implement. So, what definitively ties Mr. Dinkins to the area of Cunal Implement during the early morning hours of July 10th, where Briasia's remains were located? The court has heard deposition testimony, and then the court had the opportunity to watch the video surveillance, or not the video surveillance, the interview of Jared Brink. Jared Brink, we know, lives somewhere further north and to the east of Cunal Implement. We know that Jared Brink works at Linwood Mining here in Scott County, so essentially what he's got to do is he's got to travel from Clinton County. The most direct route would quite honestly be I-80 down along the 280 to get off in the area of River Drive so that you could go to Buffalo where Linwood Mining is at. He describes his morning routine. He gets up, he gets dressed, he gets his cup of coffee, he gets on the road, and he heads out. Mr. Brink had indicated that when he was on Highway 61, and this is where we have a plot pointed, he was traveling south, and a black male waved him down who was standing along the side of the road. This black male subject he described as wearing a dark shirt. Interestingly enough, he describes the black male as being more muscular, but when he saw the back image of Mr. Dinkins leaving the quick shop, he only had on that T-shirt that completely exposed his arms and showed a form-fitting T-shirt on his body. He indicated that this individual was more muscular in terms of what he could see. He described him wearing a black hat, which is exactly what DL described and in his interview about how his father had a do-rag on and how he had a cap on. He described this individual as having jewelry on. That's exactly what DL described his father wearing when we got to see his interviews yesterday. But even more importantly, he described the subject wearing a white denim type of short that had some type of screen imprint on it, and he remembers there being blue. And when he was shown the rear image of Mr. Dinkins leaving the quick shop, he said, those are the shorts. Jared Brink also described this black male subject as having a mole on the right side of his nose, and the court had the opportunity to see the press release that the Davenport Police Department had prepared and had put out. And sure enough, what do we have? We have Mr. Dinkins with that mole right beside his nose. At any rate, he stopped there. They go over to the area of 270th Avenue, and the vehicle is perpendicular across 270th Avenue, as if it tried doing a three-point turn, but the rear wheels went off the shoulder, which the court knows is a steep incline, to the west, and it got stuck. And so he had to pull the vehicle out. The vehicle that he describes is a maroon Chevy Impala. He describes the interior as being tan. He thought it was leather. But at any rate, he also described it being clean and there being that white aux cord. That's an exact match to what we have in this particular case, Your Honor. Everything that he described matched Henry Dinkins to a T. And then we know, based on his cell phone pinging, and then I'm going to have the court look up there because I can't tell it. Maybe you can see it on the screen. But I think his phone, Mr. Brink's cell phone, is hitting off that cell phone tower in the area of Kuhnau Implement, directionally toward the area of Kuhnau Implement at 4:27 a.m. in the morning. So, we've got the cell phone hitting there. We've got the area that is shown, number one, up here, where that contact occurred on Highway 61. When we go to the map of 270th Avenue, where the vehicle was perpendicular across the road, that's the location that Mr. Brink had noted when he was shown those maps by Detective Sean Johnson. And then you take that and you overlay it with the locations that Special Agent McMillan had collected soil samples from after Briage's body was recovered, and the GPS coordinates. We know of the 10 soil samples, 3 of those were inclusive of soil samples on Mr. Dinkins' vehicle. There were a total of 4 soil samples taken from the undercarriage. 3 toward the rear, those were matches. 1 toward the driver's side, toward the front of the vehicle, which was not a match. That is conclusive. Then we go back to the Impala. And let's talk about the Impala. When Mr. Dinkins presented himself to the Davenport Police Department, there's any number of areas that you could park right there in front of the department and walk in. When he was being interviewed by Detective Obert, he initially presents himself as having been dropped off and that his vehicle was mobile and that a friend had it, but didn't want to give any information about who that friend was. Then Detective Obert discerned that maybe he might have some issues with his license, and that might be why he's reluctant. He says, I'm not concerned about that at all. You know, the whole thing is about finding Briage. And Mr. Dinkins still is not willing to give information about where that vehicle is at. By virtue of the bolo that went out, patrol officers received that information over their MDTs. Officer Pojar read that bolo and happened.
All right. Doctor, what are your thoughts of how the prosecutor's doing on the closing arguments, and anything you'd like to opine about with regard to the bench trial versus jury trial?
I think she's actually doing a pretty good job taking the information that they do have in this case and seaming it together into one cohesive story. Here in the segment that we were just watching, that she was expressing that the cell phone tower information puts his phone in the area, and she talks about the directionality of that and somewhat, and then she gets into the soil samples that were recovered from the vehicle in question, and explains how they're inclusive. So they're not exclusive, and that becomes somewhat important, though it's not definitive, and usually soil sample information isn't as definitive as DNA could be. And so again, I think that a judge here is able to work through and discern that information better than a jury, because jurors tend to get that CSI effect where they want the fingerprints, they want the DNA, they want the smoking gun, and all of that. And murder cases don't always have that. And most often you have your cases, you're unable to really put the gun in the suspect's hand unless they give you a confession to that, or you have a rare instance where you have a crime.
Yeah, that's the CIS effect that we talk about when we're trying, cases as a prosecutor. The more and more we saw those TV shows, the more and more I felt to let people know that you just can't look at a piece of dirt and say, aha, there's the person that committed the crime. So the reliance on circumstantial evidence, and maybe you can explain to our audience the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. We used to use a lot of circumstantial evidence, but now jurors are looking for a little bit more exactitude. What do you think?
Oh my God, you got to think when CSI came out with all these different versions of the show, as well as like Law and Order and all these other crime shows, that it changed the game when it came to doing jury trials, to the point where you have to voir dire and talk to the jurors and be like, has anybody watched CSI? Raise your hand. Do you understand that that is fiction, that is not real? This is not a TV show. That is not exactly how a crime case works itself out. So that definitely changed the game. So when we're talking about direct versus circumstantial evidence, usually direct evidence, and you know what it is that you have a witness that is saying this person shot the victim died. You have someone that's a direct link to the defendant. When you're talking about circumstantial evidence, you're talking about a series of circumstantial inferences that when you add it up, it leads towards the defendant's guilt. And for jurors, it's usually most difficult for them to be able to make the circumstantial inference, because what they want is for someone to directly tie the defendant to the crime itself. But we know that with circumstantial evidence, sometimes it's better than direct evidence, because you're dealing with a series of acts, you're dealing with a series of witnesses that they're not putting their story together and that you can rely upon, because the circumstantial inferences start to stack up. And when they stack up, you put them all together like the pieces of a puzzle, it's supposed to lead to the defendant's guilt.
Yeah, and I don't know if every state does this, but in my state, when the judge charges the jury at the end of the case and explains the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence, the judge actually says, in some instances, circumstantial evidence may even be more powerful than direct evidence, because there seems to be, a sentiment that, that case is only circumstantial, but some judges will read that jury charge and say, no, it can be more powerful. Okay, great commentary, great guests, great cases. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
I'm Brian Buckmeyer, and you're watching Law and Crime.
I didn't ask to lose my mother or to be abused at 5 years old. I didn't ask to be kicked out of my house with nowhere to go. I didn't ask for any of this. But I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there. Thanks to their love and support, and to generous people like you, I got what I needed to take control of my life.
For the young people who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations, Covenant House is there providing safety, hope, and a brighter future. Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. 1 in 10 young adults will experience homelessness this year. Your gift can help reach them when they need it most.
I didn't ask for my parents and my family to disown me. I didn't ask to end up in a homeless shelter. The beauty of it all is that I found Covenant House.
The need is overwhelming, but your monthly support will make sure no young person is ever turned away. Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today. If there's no Covenant House, where would I be today?
Your monthly gift is urgently needed to reach young people in communities like yours who didn't ask to be put in unthinkable situations. Show them they're loved and not alone. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
The Sonic Scrubber by Black Wolf. 6,000 RPMs of charcoal-infused silicone cleaning power when you shower.
It feels like a massage.
The silicone bristles are gentle on my face. And with the handle, I can reach my back, my legs. I can even use it on my toes.
It's got a 3-hour USB charge. I love a long shower.
There are 4 different vibration modes to clean and exfoliate everywhere.
The Sonic Scrubber by Black Wolf. Get 20% off now at GetSonicScrubber.com.
Subscribe today.
Made in Cookware was forged from a 4-generation family legacy, providing professional-grade foundational tools to fine hotels and restaurants around the world. In collaboration with top chefs and craftsmen, we created an award-winning lightweight product that heats evenly and lasts a lifetime. No gimmicks, no unnecessary design, just an open invitation to culinary excellence.
Calm. Download the free app now.
Sure, you'll teach her how to drive a car. Then use Greenlight to power her independence with crash detection with 911 dispatch, family location sharing, and emergency SOS alerts. Invest in your best investment with Greenlight.
They love extra projects.
We need promotional products.
I'm on it.
4imprint takes the stress out of ordering promotional items. Get the high-quality products you need at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
I'm Imran Ansari, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Okay, so we're still in the Henry Dinkins case. We've been listening to the prosecutor's closing statements. Kelly Cunningham, let's listen to a little bit more.
And happened to observe the maroon Chevy Impala parked a block down and to the north there on Main. And then the vehicle is seized and brought to the Davenport Police Department. Jill Foster took photographs of that vehicle. And this was a topic of conversation that Miss Foster had talked about when we went around the vehicle. There were areas on the vehicle to show that there was the spray of muddy dirt on the vehicle. And you see it along the passenger side here in those areas. The other thing that's interesting about this, and the state's going to bring this back full circle, not only do we have soil around that vehicle that's consistent with it being up in this area, but then the other thing is the child had described how there had been a machete in the trunk of the vehicle, and one of the things that Sergeant Pfeiffer had talked about when they started to remove the remains from Briasia's skeleton, or remove the branches from Briasia's skeletal remains, he noted that it looked like a knife had been used to cut branches to lay over the top of her body. And so the state throws that in there because that yet is another connection to this area up here in the area of Kunal Info. As for additional identifiers, Brink picked out a white ox cord. That's exactly what was inside that vehicle when it was seized. Mr. Brink, when shown these photographs, or this photograph of Mr. Dinkins leaving the quick shop, it's an exact match. And of course, we've got the maroon Chevy Impala that he described being shown by Joseph Adams after his wife had sent him the image. He picked out the maroon Chevy Impala, and then we see the photograph of Mr. Dinkins there with the mole on the right side of his face. This takes us to the last portion of the story. And the conduct of Mr. Dinkins speaks about volumes about his involvement in the murder of Briasia. We know sometime after sunrise, according to Detective Hammis's testimony, when she was doing the interview, she'd asked, cellular device, what time the sun rose, and I think it was like maybe at about 5:38 on June 10th or July 10th. We know that Mr. Dinkins returned to the apartment sometime during the early morning hours. Sometime after sunrise. Andrea Culberson wasn't able to give us that time. But then we know that when he came up, he got DL, he left, he gathered up the children's clothing, which is very interesting, and then he goes to leave without his phone. Andrea Culberson insists that he takes his phone, so he takes it, leaves with the child. She discovers that there's another bag with the children's clothing. She calls him. He comes back. We see his movement through the video surveillance on the feeds. We see that vehicle going past the Quick Start on 53rd. And this is before the 6 o'clock hour. We see it going east on Eastern by virtue of the camera at Judson Court that faces out onto Eastern. Through the cellular data that was provided to us through Special Agent Veteran, we know that he traveled east on Eastern, back, or north on Eastern, I'm sorry, Your Honor, back east on Veterans Memorial, back south on Jersey Ridge, back to the apartment complex, which is consistent with him picking up the clothes, and then leaving. Then he goes back north on Jersey, and then we've got him at mile marker 124. I will ask the court to rely on its own recollection, but I think that was about 6:11 a.m. We know then that he went to the Walmart in Clinton where he purchased the Clorox, because DL tells us that his father had his cell phone in the cup holder and the battery had been removed. And when his father went into the store, and we know he entered at 7:04 a.m., that he took the battery, put it in to play a video game. When he saw his father coming out, he removed it so he wouldn't get in trouble. It was that event that allowed us to develop what happened out in Clinton. We know then, by virtue of the canvassing and looking for video feed, we saw him coming past Posh Farms, past First State Central Bank, going into Walmart. We saw the video feed at Walmart. We see him going back past First Central State Bank, Posh Farms, and then back along mile marker 124. We know he purchased Clorox. DL described how his father went to two wooded areas. And the one wooded area that he described as there being woods, and then there was a road down and you could see a pond. That's Kunow implement. He described his father getting out of the car, and he described his father having a knife and having wiped it off, and he knew it was Clorox because he could smell the odor of Clorox. When we look at the travel times, if you drove past mile marker 124 and went the speed limit, it would only take you 22 minutes to get on Highway 30 and go past Posh Farms. On the trip out, it was 32 minutes. On the trip back, it was 37 minutes. 15 more minutes on the trip back. And what do we have? When Briasia's remains are recovered, we've got those clothing articles that are recovered, the shorts, the t-shirt, and the little bra. The court had the ability to see those articles of clothing as they were pulled out by Sergeant Pfeiffer. then the court had the ability to be able to see photographs, but most importantly, the photograph that came from the state medical examiner's office. When you look at those black shorts, and this is what Sergeant Pfeiffer had talked about, there was discoloration in the fabric, and we could very clearly see it based on what the lighting conditions were when that photograph was taken at the state medical examiner's office, and you can see that discoloration. Very significant. If you have a child who has been sexually assaulted, you have the perpetrator's DNA that's present on that child's body. Bleach will kill that DNA. Criminalist Stepansky had testified that they had made a judgment call about how they were going to proceed as it relates to the articles of clothing to see if there was bleach. So they noted discoloration on that white t-shirt. They took cuttings, and recognizing that we've got variables that are working against us. Reagan's been out in the elements for a significant period of time. Her body has decomposed. The clothing has been out there in the sun, the wind, the rain, the snow. All of that compromises DNA. But when he went through the series of tests for those cuttings, he noted that Clorox has 4 specific elements. Those 4 elements were noted when the analysis was made of those cuttings. Then he described how he used water to try and pull things out of that fabric, to do a pH test with Clorox being basic at 10. This came in at a 7. But he said, bear in mind, water will dilute the pH. And then Clorox, in a color test, will test a dark blue. This came back as a light blue. But bearing in mind, liquid will dilute the color. He couldn't make a conclusive determination, but the findings are very significant when you combine it with everything else that had happened and the defendant's activities in purchasing bleach. And that tells us everything about what was occurring. Mr. Dinkins is very savvy. He knew exactly what it is that he needed to do to destroy the evidence, and steps were taken to do that. And that is conclusively shown by lab report after lab report after lab report that ended up with negative findings. The only thing he couldn't control was the issue of the soil samples underneath his vehicle that ties his vehicle to that area. I think as far as the last points that I would make, and I'm just thinking about different testimony that was offered, I think at this juncture really what it comes down to is this. What caused Briasia's death? We heard testimony that she was shot through her left mandible. It traveled through her C3 and C4 out the back of her neck and got caught in her little hair. She was shot twice, from front on the right side of her body to left, and that's where we see the damage from the bullets in the scapula. And Dr. Cruz, when asked to opine as to the cause of death and manner of death, indicated that she died of gunshot wounds and the manner of death was homicide. And then the final piece of the puzzle comes into play relative to those casings. I shouldn't say casings, those bullets that were found with Briasia's body. There were 3. There was damage to some. However, when Mike Tate, I believe, talked about this, I get Mike Tate and Mike Schmidt mixed up. He talked about how he goes through the process of weighing that ammunition to get a sense of the caliber, and it was .38 caliber ammunition. That gun that was recovered from the pond, there were empty casings within that revolver. It was .38 caliber ammunition. While there was damage to the bullets, there were markings on those bullets that could be compared to the types of markings that would be generated from the Lassier Comanche And when you stop and consider the manufacturing process and the types of markings that it leaves, it was consistent with that. And when Mike Tate ran the types of guns that could be used to fire this type of ammunition, the Lacer Comanche was on that list. Your Honor, when you go through this entire sequence of events, while most of the evidence is circumstantial, and we do have some direct evidence, the evidence in this case is overwhelming, and the conclusions are clear. The child was taken from that apartment by a man who was not her father. She was taken so that the adult nor her brother would know. She was sexually assaulted, and then that child was murdered. And based on all of this, the state is asking you to find Mr. Dinkins guilty of murder in the first degree and kidnapping in the first degree. Thank you.
Well, there you go. We were talking about it before. The prosecutor clearly, in one of the last statements, which you know is going to be one important, primacy and recency, talking about the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back on the other end with my awesome guest. Please stay with us.
I'm Jesse Weber, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Every day across America, kids are living with hunger. Families are doing all they can to provide, but they're still struggling.
Whether it's working the crazy hours so you could have enough money for food, or, just giving up things for your personal self, and it's just, gotta feed your kids.
And today, the need to help kids and families has never been greater. During these tough times, you can help feed kids by joining with other caring people in supporting No Kid Hungry. With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you'll help provide healthy meals and hope to kids right in your community and across America.
They're growing at this age and they need the best diet they can have.
Please, call or go online right now with your gift of just $19 a month. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this limited edition No Kid Hungry t-shirt to show you're part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day. And many of our parents and many of our communities are still suffering.
It's very difficult to, have a good family setting when you're worrying about having enough food for your family.
More families are struggling than ever before to feed their kids. Your support of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, will ensure they get the healthy meals they need to thrive. Kids in your community and across America need you now.
Thank you for giving.
Thank you for giving.
Thank you.
Please call this special number today or go online to helpnokidhungry.org to help feed hungry kids.
So it's Spot the Difference.
Oh, it's so much more. It's the roaring 20s, dear.
Whose hat is that?
Discover a world of mystery, scandal.
Oh, really?
Romance.
Oh.
Murder.
Nope.
In June's Journey, you need to be able to spot things out of the ordinary to discover important clues.
Sounds good, right? Oh. Where's my tablet?
There's a detective in all of us. June's Journey. Download now for free.
It's your igniter. We'll help get that fixed. Then your oven issues, done.
The best part about opening front door is the video to get this to the done, yeah. Video, chatting like crazy. Experts on shirts.
Man, an app to fix my oven.
Yep, an app to fix your oven. That's correct.
Introducing Front Door. Download today to video chat an expert.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
ribs, chocolate cake.
You're gonna get sick. You need pumpkin.
I love pumpkin.
It's not food, it's pet insurance. So when you get hurt or sick and you need expensive medicine or surgery,
pet insurance from Pumpkin can help.
Go to pumpkin.care.
Whether you're an active person that wants extra supplemental movement, maybe you want to keep your legs active while you work, or you wish to support your therapy at home, or you just want to build strength, increase your mobility, flexibility, and boost your circulation, Ellipse was made for you. Power-assisted exercise that frees your mind to enjoy your favorite seated activities. Just plug it in, place your feet, select your speed, and relax. Ellipse does all the work for you. Call now and order Ellipse.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and you are watching Law and Crime.
All right, since we wrapped up those closings and while we were on the break, I asked my two awesome guests who got an incredible amount of experience, what is it that they want to talk about? What do they think is interesting? So, Bernard, I'm going to start with you. You asked, how long is it going to take the judge to come to a decision?
See, that's the big difference between a jury trial and a bench trial. A judge, he's going to reach a decision. You know he's going to reach a decision. It's not going to be a mistrial. The thing is, with a jury trial, you just never know. I've had homicide verdicts come in within an hour, some even more hours, some overnight or even 2 or 3 days. You're not going to have that issue with this judge. The judge, more than likely, he's going to finish listening to the closing arguments, and he'll probably come to a decision. He'll probably schedule it either for tomorrow or for some date shortly in the future, so he can show that he took the time to review all the evidence and apply it to the law, but you're not going to have the questions that you have with a jury. So I think we should be hearing a verdict shortly, either today or tomorrow. Okay, now I know it sounds crazy, and let's go into the land of you never know. It would be funny if the judge sat there and said, you know, maybe this, and then I see that, and you know, just really, I'm declaring this a hung jury in a mistrial. Is it possible? It is possible, but highly unlikely. You just got to think, are you going to have a judge read his own Allen charge? Like, you have to go back and deliberate. There's no one who's going to be in a better equipped way to make the decision. Don't do violence to your judgment. Exactly. Do not waste resources. So just imagine that. So I think more than likely, of course, he's going to think about everything. He's not going to reach a rash decision. Usually in homicide cases, even with a jury, they're likely to always go overnight, and I think that's what this judge is going to do, is go overnight. Again, he's had more information than the average person about this trial, and he's better equipped in the sense of he saw the witnesses testify, he heard the arguments from both sides, and quite honestly, he may have even made up a decision even as he's listened to closing arguments, and he knows how he's going to roll. Yeah, and no kidding, kidding aside, I would assume that if a judge would, quote unquote, be in the area of a hung jury, that in a judge's point of view is going to be reasonable doubt, which would lead probably to a not guilty if that were in fact the case. All right, Doctor, we talked about what you found interesting, and one of the things, and we got two from each of you, were the closing arguments. How did you think the prosecutor did tying it up?
So I thought she did a fantastic job with that. You know, now we got to keep in mind that she is dealing with a lot of circumstantial evidence. And then some direct evidence, as she had noted in her closing. And when even so, she's tying the information together really well with the storyline. So she had actually elaborated on how DL had testified about obtaining the Clorox, and then there was a Clorox smell, and then even in the examination of the remnants of the clothing that were left behind, the elements of Clorox were present there, given the fact of all the decomposition and everything that had happened over this time period. And so she pulled all that together seamlessly into a very cohesive story for the judge to really have to mull over guilt or innocence in this case.
Bernarda, you had talked about the idea that you found it interesting. One of the facts compelling to you was the guy who found the vehicle, feeling that it was favorable for the prosecution. Explain that. Absolutely. So you got to think, so the guy who actually found the vehicle and got the vehicle from the water itself, he didn't testify at the trial. However, his deposition was put in front of the judge. And just to show you, if it was a jury trial, best believe the prosecutor would have had that witness, would want to have had that witness come in and testify live. But I think that piece of evidence
evidence is so strong because it places defendant in the vicinity of, guess what, where the body was recovered. So that is a point and the hugest hurdle, one of the hugest hurdles that the defense had to try to overcome, and I don't think that they overcame that because that evidence there places him on the scene, bodies recovered in that very same vicinity. So that's one of the biggest points for the prosecutor to nail down with this judge.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we're doing this, it's also not just proving that it points to a person, but I always used to prosecute a case eliminating the possibility of any other suspects, which is obviously important. I know you know that as a retired homicide detective, but Doctor, what do you think about, you found it compelling about the body decomposition. Talk to us about why that was important to you.
Yeah, well, it's important because as investigators, you know, when you have a homicide case and it's recent, you have a lot of physical evidence that you can actually go through and analyze. The fact that this body had been missing for such a period of time that decomposition had set in, and still the state was able to produce laboratory tests regarding that, shows the depth of the investigation and the tenacity of the investigators in seeking out the information. And it's not just with necessarily with Briège's body, but I mean, look at the information with the car and the depths that they went with that, and look at the cell phone information as well. And again, when you take all of that information, the totality of those facts, and you put them together as the prosecutor did here in this case, this starts to become a very compelling case.
All right, listen, great job, guys. Bernarda, I know we've got to go. It's been a long time, 2 years of COVID. We haven't been in studio. It's great to have you here. We're going to take a break. She's got to go, but we'll have another guest on the other end. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Linda Kenny Bodden, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Mom, we're so glad you're feeling better. You gave us such a scare.
I know, honey. Me too. But I want you to know I'm at peace with my homegoing when my time is up. And did I also tell you that I got coverage for my funeral so you and your brother would not have to worry about expenses?
I didn't know you were saving money for your final expenses.
I haven't. I called Open Care, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $30,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
That's wonderful, Mom, but how did you pass your medical exam with your health condition?
Oh, that's the best part. No medical exam is needed.
That's right, and my rates can never increase, my benefits will not decrease, and my coverage will never be canceled.
Mom, I'm so glad you called.
You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. We don't want to leave our loved ones with debt. The cost of a funeral can be $8,000 or more. A final expense life insurance plan will pay up to $30,000, which can be used for funeral and other final expenses. Call 800-434-4130 now for your free information. You can now get up to $30,000 in life insurance coverage to help pay for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you can be enrolled with just one phone call. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call the number on your screen now and see how a final expense life insurance plan can help you. There's no obligation. Call 800-434-4130. That's 800-434-4130.
Why is everyone talking about Navage and nasal irrigation?
I was dealing with some just bad nasal congestion, post-nasal drip.
Navage is simple. Your nose is the body's air filter, but it's not perfect. Navage is a drug-free way to help flush out allergens, mucus, and germs using powered suction. Join nearly 4 million Navage users so you can breathe better, snore less, and feel healthier.
It's 2-3 minutes of my time, and I'm right back to normal. I can breathe.
Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
5, 4, 3.
Keeping my family healthy is my top priority. Thankfully, I discovered Aquasana. Their water filters remove the contaminants I worry about most. It's a must for my healthy home. Visit aquasana.com today to get up to 50% off.
Brillia helps control anxiety, hyperactivity, and mood swings in children, teens, and adults with no harmful side effects. Here's how Brillia has helped transform families' lives.
This stuff works.
It's been a lifesaver.
Learn more at discoverbrillia.com.
Meet Litter Robot, the revolutionary self-cleaning litter box that eliminates the chore of scooping, reduces litter tracking, and traps odors. And Litter Robot provides real-time updates. Litter Robot by Whisker.
Welcome to the Law and Crime Network. If you're just joining us on Bob Bianchi, we got one more hour. It's been a great 2 hours so far. Right now, we're going to get back to South Carolina for the trial of Rita Pangalangan, I believe is the name, and Larry King. Both are charged with murder for the death of her 13-year-old daughter, Cristina. According to prosecutors, Cristina, who had cerebral palsy, was left trapped inside a hot car in August of 2009 for more than 5 hours by the defendants. After opening statements, which took place earlier today, the state called their first witness. That was SLED agent Hallie Godley. Now, this is a woman, a defendant, who was once a teacher of the year. There were 5 previous instances in which the Division of Services, Family Services, Child Services in that location had complaints against the defendant in the case, all of which were exonerated from what we understand. We're going to see if that's going to play a little bit of a role right now, but let's listen to the SLED agent as they testify in court.
My name is Special Agent Hallie Godley, and I work for SLED Narcotics currently.
How long have you been with SLED?
Going on 5.5 years.
I don't know if we call it SLED, but what's the full title of the State Law Enforcement Division?
Correct.
Okay, so you've been with them for how long?
About 5.5 years.
Okay. What, in your capacity with SLED, what do you do?
I investigate narcotic cases.
Prior to this, back in 2019, what did you do?
I was with SLED at the time.
What specifically were your job duties there?
A narcotics investigator.
How did you get involved in this case as a narcotics investigator?
I was returning from a training class in Jasper County that day, so I was traveling back northbound on 95, and when this call came out over the Colleton County Dispatch radio channel, I was at exit 42 on 95, and this incident location was right down the road from where I was at. And when the call came out as a 12-year-old locked in a car, unresponsive, my first thought was, at the time, my daughter was 6, and she knew how to get out of a locked car. So,
Objection's overruled.
So it immediately sounded suspicious to me.
Let me stop you there just short, briefly. You were mentioning 95. I want to give the jury some idea about what we're talking about. This is State's Exhibit 7 that we've already shown to the defense.
Any objections to it being admitted? It's admitted.
I'm going to, Your Honor, I'll prove this off, and if this gets in anybody's way, All right, let me show you. This is State's Exhibit number 7. Can you identify that for us?
Yes, sir. That's an aerial map of, it looks like Colleton County, with.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
With 2 addresses identified.
All right. Now, on this map, if you could just give us, can you still see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Give us some idea about the proximity of this. This is first of all, is all of this in Colleton County?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so you are traveling, I believe, on Interstate 95 at the time?
Correct.
Give me, if you could, the addresses on that and tell me about this area, please.
Stand.
Yes.
As long as you keep your voice up.
Okay. So this top right address is 1867 Academy Road, Walterboro, South Carolina. I'm familiar with this address being the home address of Rita Pangalangan.
Okay. And the lower address?
The lower address is 11685 Low Country Highway, Ruffin, South Carolina, and that is the incident location for this investigation.
All right, so that is where you responded to?
Correct.
Okay. When you arrived on the scene at make sure I get this exactly right. The 116-850 Texas Highway. Could you describe what you find once you get there?
Initially, as I was responding, initially I passed the residence, and as I passed it, I saw two legs sticking up out of the tall grass in the yard. And in my mind, it reminded me immediately of at the time, my daughter had the life size Anna and Elsa dolls.
Just tell me what you saw. Just keep going.
So as I returned back to the yard and got out of my vehicle, I saw Cristina on the ground, face down in the tall grass, and Larry walking around the front yard.
All right, and you say Larry, who are you talking about?
The individual in the button-up shirt, light blue or white, dark brown beard, the glasses, and bald head.
And you know his full name?
Larry King.
And Your Honor, the record, she identified the defendant, Larry King.
It does.
And Larry King, what is he doing when you get there?
He's walking around, and I believe he was still on the phone with 911.
Did you see Rita Pangalangan?
Not initially.
So tell me, when you walk up on the scene, exactly what do you see?
I see Cristina laying in the tall grass, face down, Larry walking around in the front yard, and the front door of the residence was open.
Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 5. Ask if you could identify this, please.
Yes, sir. This is a accurate depiction of the scene when I arrived with the Volkswagen parked in the front yard and myself in.
That's fair and accurate depiction of how the scene looked when you arrived?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, this time we move State's Exhibit number 5 into evidence. Your Honor, we're going to publish this. This is here in the hard copy. We'll publish it on the...
It is, puts the court at a great disadvantage to rule on the admissibility of evidence not seen by the court. Do you have copies of these exhibits?
Yes, sir.
Including, you showed her something and had it admitted, and I can't see it. Do you all have copies of the exhibits? I can get copies later, but I would like to have copies of exhibits.
Copies of the first two, State's Exhibit 7 and State's Exhibit 5.
And number 5 is admitted, as well as number 7 has already been admitted.
Tell me what this is depicting. This is State's Exhibit 5 up on the monitor.
This is right when I got on scene that day.
So is this you in the blue shirt?
Yes, sir.
Is that a blue shirt by the way?
It is.
Okay. And who is that standing beside you?
Larry King.
Okay. And where is Cristina the child?
She would have been off the rear driver's side bumper of the car.
All right, so you can't see her. She's on the other side?
Correct.
And again, where is Rita Pangalangan at this point?
Inside the residence.
Your Honor, we need a matter of law. Also for Mr. King.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have you go to the jury room for a break. Please do not discuss the case.
Okay, still with us is Dr. Ken Lang, a retired homicide detective. We have Melba Pearson with us, a former prosecutor. Welcome to the show, Melba. I want to go to you first. Nails on a chalkboard just happened to me. I don't know if you, as a trial lawyer, if you felt it. These look, they seem like they know what they're doing. You always have a copy of the exhibits and anything you're going to show a witness to a judge. Not only do you do it because it makes the judge's job easier, it always looks great when you say, Your Honor, would you like a copy of the exhibits, or would you like a copy of the grand jury transcript? They always do. I'm wondering, he may have even taken a break to probably bring them in to say, hey guys, whatever exhibits you're introducing, I'd like to have them so I can follow along with the testimony. So I only bring this up, Melba, because we have a lot of lawyers that watch the show and law students. When you're doing this, you got to have copies. I have a copy for the judge. I have a copy for the court clerk and even the court reporter. It just in front of a jury, especially, looks so professional. Did you note that? Was that something that was surprising to you?
Great to be on with you again, Bob. And yes, I had the same exact reaction. I was like, ooh, because again, you want to make sure that you looked polished in front of the jury, because the jury takes note of little things, how you treat the court clerk, how you speak to defense counsel, how you carry yourself with the staff. And if the judge has to basically admonish you and say, hey, listen, I don't have a copy of what you're referring to, that's a bad look, and that starts to chip away at your credibility. It's not the end of your case, but it is something that the jurors do file away in the back of their heads, which is why you always make sure, as a matter of practice, copy to the defense, even though you know they're supposed to have had that way in advance. You provide them an additional copy, give an additional copy to the clerk, one for the judge, one for the court reporter, and then you go ahead and introduce your evidence. It just makes things flow so much more smoothly and professionally.
And Melba, I want to take it one step further, because everything that you're doing in the court as a trial lawyer should be designed to achieve the objective that you're looking for. And when you're doing that and your adversary isn't, the jury is looking at it like this is a competent, well-prepared person. And when they're putting their faith in what the lawyer is saying, is the way, I know the evidence is what controls it, but let's be honest. If they believe that's coming through a vehicle of competence and respect and doing things like this, you don't want a judge saying what was said there. So, I mean, that's one piece to the entire equation. But also, I think our audience may not understand, and maybe you can explain this. The judges only have very limited information. They don't have, in most cases, all the discovery and all the information, and it's built that way, that the defense attorney has and the prosecutor have. They basically are getting the information when it became relevant during motions, but not the whole file. Thoughts?
Absolutely. When a judge gets a case file, basically, what they receive is basically the arrest affidavit. If there was maybe an arrest warrant, they may receive that as well. And that's all the information they have for the majority of the time that the case is pending. Now, as it gets closer to trial, if the defense or the prosecution files motions knowing that certain evidence might be problematic, they want a motion to exclude certain evidence, or they want a motion to include certain evidence because they know that it's going to be contentious at trial, that's when the judge starts to get those bits and pieces as to what the state's case is going to look like or what the defense case is going to look like. But they're mostly finding everything out along with the jury. So again, that's why it's so important to make sure to have everything prepared so that the judge can just get all the information that's needed, make a ruling in a very informed fashion, and the trial can proceed more smoothly.
Yeah, Dr. Lang, I mean, I've literally had cases, both as a prosecutor and a defense lawyer, where I knew in my mind the judge did not understand the totality of the case because that's the way it's set up. And they can start forming opinions, and we would be saying it's important to get facts out so that the judge understands more of the dynamics of the case. And I've listened to judges basically say, I thought this case was one thing in the beginning, and now based on all this information, I feel it's like something completely different. It can have such a big impact. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting because judges can have that thought process, and in having that thought process, they actually decide on how these objections are coming up and actually lay the foreground in the path that this trial is going to take. So, take for instance, when this agent was testifying, she was asked very direct questions that just required a direct answer, but then she begins to kind of opine on how the situation reminded her of a certain circumstance with her daughter or some past event. And so when judges start allowing that in, it can actually change the direction or the trajectory of the trial.
Yeah, interesting point. I would like to talk to you a little bit more if we have an opportunity today about how to answer a question as a detective on the witness stand, and what's the smart way to do it and not. But unfortunately, we're going to have to take a break just for a little bit. We'll be back on the other end with these awesome guests. Please stay with us.
Terry Austin, and you're watching Law and Crime.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion
and make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed.
It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters.
But when you say it,
the life of a kid like me can be changed.
So, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes.
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 Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me.
And me. Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch.
And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
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 Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
Pet owners know the struggle. Your best bud can track dirt, mud, sand, and all sorts of other gunk indoors. But now there's a simple solution that won't have you scrambling for the mop and bucket. It's Muddy Mat, the pet-perfect anti-mud mat that keeps your dog's paws so clean it's like they're wiping them at the door. Muddy Mat surface is designed with thousands of advanced ultra-soft microfibers that are 5 times more absorbent than ordinary floor mats, trapping dirt and water, perfectly protecting the floor underneath, leaving your floors clean and dry. Its durable super grip underside means Muddy Mat stays put, even when your pal is tearing around. Perfect for any floor surface. Slip Muddy Mat under your pal's food dish to absorb runaway crumbs and water, or use it in the bathroom as a home base for drying off. Muddy Mat can even be a perfect addition to catch spills in the kitchen. Once Muddy Mat has trapped all the mess, just toss it in the washing machine. It's machine washable and dryable. So easy.
I love the Muddy Mat. There's no mud or dirt on the floor or on Piper's paws. It's on the Muddy Mat.
My mom used to make me clean up after Sunny, and now I don't need to.
Being able to keep that mop and bucket put away is a lifesaver.
Muddy Mat is the simple anti-mud mat that also stops dirt, grass, sand, and more at the door. Stop wasting money on those ordinary mats. Super absorbent and built to last, Muddy Mat lets you spend less time mopping and more time romping with your four-legged friend. Reduce the mess caused by your pet and get the easy solution to keeping any of your floors clean and dry. Call or go online to order your revolutionary Muddy Mat right away. Through this exclusive introductory offer, we're giving a massive discount. See how you can pay as low as only $19.99. Order right now.
Pay as low as $19.99 for your Muddy Mat. Go to mymuddymat.com or call 1-800-282-7710. That's 1-800-282-7710. Call now.
I'm Michelle Yu, and you're watching Law and Crime.
All right, future trial lawyers and crime aficionados, get ready for this one. Due to our great producer, Elizabeth, we were listening to testimony from SLED agent Haley Godley when an issue about exhibits was brought up, essentially wanting to know, like, when you're showing the witnesses these pictures and you're showing them this evidence, it would be really helpful to the court if I could take a look on it and to follow it along. And we talked about the idea that that's something that you should just do as an experienced trial lawyer. It's great for the judge, of course, but it's also great for the jury to see how prepared you are. And our producer, Elizabeth, said, wait a minute, I got a clip on that. What happened after he took a break? We predicted he was going to say something to the lawyers about it. I don't know what's about to be said, but something was said. So let's take a listen.
I think the state seeks to admit all 4 photographs into evidence at this time. And so renewing our prior pretrial objection to those photographs with those arguments under Rule 403, going through the case laws. We cited even, the new case that recently came out from our Supreme Court on August 9th, Nelson. Specifically, Your Honor, I'm not going to rehash. I know we went through that thoroughly in the argument pre-trial, but we renewed that objection. Need to hash that out.
Mr. Lord.
Likewise, Your Honor, even under Nelson, what they have described in that case, as well as the treatment of the law, to suppress the pictures, which don't make any issue, contention more or less likely. It's just not probative. We have proceeded what the solicitor said. This child was in the car, it got so hot, she basically baked to death. She was pulled out. The pictures don't demonstrate that any more than the words themselves do. Plus, these pictures have other prejudicial effect, and that this is a disabled child, and that's not the fault of either one of the defendants, but they are even more pathetic or emotional, and that the child looks emaciated. The child is wearing a diaper. And those have nothing to do with this, and they don't make it any more or less likely that there was malice involved. The actions are pretty much what we have to see if they were. The state said this happened. We said this happened. What do these prove? And what do they go to show this that is being contested? And I believe the answer is nothing.
I don't believe that was the answer. Let me hand you, Your Honor, first of all, the 4 photographs. Those are, and obviously I still need to authenticate those from the witness. Nelson was an autopsy case, Your Honor. These are not autopsy pictures. These are crime scene pictures, which is why I handed you Upstate versus Kelsey yesterday. But even under the analysis of autopsy pictures, specifically, the Supreme Court has routinely said that if photographs are probative, if they tend to shed light on any issue, if they corroborate testimony, if they are enable the jury to better understand testimony, including showing the condition of the victim's bodies, the probable type or location of the injuries, the position in which the bodies were discovered. Again, these are discovered as Agent Godley testified. This is right after this event has taken place. In fact, Larry King is still on the phone with 911 when it happens. This is also, you will see for the 5 hours and 41 minutes that the child is in the car, both Larry King and Rita Pangalangan approach that car at various times and actually look in the window. So at some point they're seeing exactly what this is and these blisters and the things that you're seeing. What's also, I think, important, and she just testified to this, at least part of it, is that when she gets there, the child is laying by herself in the grass. Rita Pangalangan, the mother, is nowhere near. And that's exactly how they found the child, and that was the condition that child was in throughout the entire event.
All right. Exhibits number 2 and 4 are admitted over objection as they depict the scene at the time the officer arrived and is being used to further describe her testimony, and that the pictures are not of such a nature that the prejudice exceeds the probative value. With regard to number 1 and number 3, what do these pictures purport to show? That is of significance.
This is how on Stacy's Exhibit 3. These are it's actually the same photograph. This is the bottom half, and this is the full body shot. Again, not only is it how the child was found, you can see the blisters that were on the child's body.
You can see it on both photographs, or can
Yes,
you?
you can.
So they show the same injuries.
They do. The only difference is you can see the child's face, which I believe that both King and Pangalangan would have been able to see if they looked in the car. And there's no way for me to tell you, other than to tell you on the video, they are looking in the car at various times. Sometimes to look at, supposedly looking to see how they get the car unlocked. But there are various times in the video in which they're looking in. This is what they would see with that child. And Your Honor,
And I'll get back to you. I'm talking to the solicitor.
Yes, sir.
And the tag on the feet of the child.
That is they had to put I think the coroner put the tag on that.
Was this at the scene or at a different location?
No, it's at the scene. It's right there. Yes, sir. And I think you can see the grass around it, although they had to, they got a sheet to try to cover the body.
All right, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you, Your Honor. Based on Your Honor's ruling to admit the two photographs as...
I haven't excluded the other two.
That's right. So that's where I'm focused.
Right.
Based on Your Honor's decision to admit those two, our argument would be, again, that there's nothing that testimony can't provide that's not already contained within those two photographs that would be highlighted by those. That is not how she was found at the scene. Has the coroner's tag, has the sheet behind her. One's obviously an enhanced photograph with the injuries. These photos are nothing more to inflame the passions and prejudice of the jury, to have them make a decision based on an improper basis, not the evidence themselves. And Your Honor has decided to admit those two photographs. With that, to me, those additional two photographs, the probative value would be substantially outweighed by its prejudicial effect.
Mr. Loy.
Your Honor, I don't believe that those photographs show anything that's not can't be described by a witness on the stand adequately, and it's not adequately shown in the pictures that are there. I would note that in Nelson on page 3, the part that's in the Dinkins, they do what we do. And the Supreme Court seems to think it's important, where in the opening statement, counsel said, we agree the victim was brutally murdered. We agree she had at least 90 wounds to her body. We agree with the prosecutor about the cause of her death. We agree about where she was killed. We agree in general what the murder weapon was. And we agree that these people were there. We're in the same, and the Supreme Court seems to think that's an important point. They quote it, they admit it, and then they go further and say, we agree with that, and we think that negates a lot of the necessity to bring this in, and it just makes it inflammatory. At this point, I think it's also cumulative, inflammatory as well as cumulative. If the states weren't around, I don't think they need this one too.
Last word, Mr. Solicitor.
Testimony. Again, everything in here goes to the state of mind of these two people. These two people were able to see that child in the car when they looked in the car, and that's what they saw. And that's one area that makes it particularly, I think, important. There's no foundation.
Last word, Mr. Go ahead, sir.
The windows are tinted. There's no one testified you can look through that car with doors closed and see what's in it, so there's no foundation based on that.
All right. These two photographs, 1 and 3, are admitted over objection. They show the bruising on the child and further shows the condition at the time of the discovery of the child. They're admitted over objection.
Thank you.
And we'll take 5 minutes and we'll proceed. You may step down. Solicitor, regarding these exhibits, I typically like to get copies of the exhibits before they're being offered, not as they're being offered, because I don't want to stop the testimony to look at the exhibits, to evaluate it if I have them. You all have them. I assume you've shared a lot of them with the defense. And you don't have to do it now, but you have some time to make photocopies of them. I don't need the color copies, I want to be able to follow things.
I did at the break.
All right.
So here is the slips we have so far up through 12, and we marked on the very back in exhibit 1.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's bring the jury.
Melba, a very, very staid judge, but you could see he's agitated, he's angry, he got threw it on the table. Look, I don't want to reiterate the point. Should have been done beforehand. But this is very crucial here. The judge has to make a very critical analysis that he allows the prosecution to show gruesome photos to the jury if they're relevant to a relevant fact in the case. But as the defense lawyer said, it gets to a point where the probative value is outweighed by the prejudicial effect. In fact, citing the law that at a certain point in time, too much can cause a potential reversal. This judge was not happy that he had to sit there and evaluate these photographs while a jury is out and having to make a critical decision like that. And while he's a pretty even-keeled guy, you could tell from his facial expressions and everything, he was not happy about that. So you can comment on that, or you can comment on what goes on here. I think that maybe an audience may not understand that aren't lawyers, that the judge has to, what does it mean the prejudicial value is outweighed by the probative effect? The probative effect is outweighed by the prejudicial value of it. There's a balancing act the judge has to do, and he got thrown this at the last minute. What does that all mean?
Yeah, so definitely a lot to unpack here. So first off, what should have probably happened this morning before the jury was brought in, usually the judge will make a comment like, are there any matters that we need to discuss before we bring in the jury? And at that point, you talk about any scheduling issues, you talk about any evidence you're trying to admit that day, and then, you know, you can give copies of the material of the evidence to the judge at that time, so that when the time comes later on that you want to introduce that evidence, the judge has had a moment to review it, or at least is in possession of it, right? Again, it's about making things go smoothly. And of course, you have to keep in mind that while the jury is sitting there on this break, they're not supposed to talk about the case. They're likely not, but they're thinking about the case, and they're thinking about you. And they can be also filling in the blank as to what discussions may be happening, especially if right before they got sent out, there was the judge somewhat admonishing counsel saying, I should have had a copy of this. So they may be joking back there like, oh, so-and-so is, you know, getting chewed out. And again, that could affect your credibility and how you handle the case. But prejudicial, you know, you have to weigh whether or not the evidence is more prejudicial than probative. If it's not bringing any real value, if it's not helping the jury understand the facts of the case, and it's just basically gruesome pictures just to show gruesome pictures, that's not admissible.
Right, and it can't be cumulative over and over and over again. Really, really important point here, I think, in terms of how a judge has to balance this. He clearly wasn't happy. Doc, I want to go to you for a minute. The witness is on the stand, a SLED agent, right? You were a retired homicide detective, and you had some commentary about the manner in which a detective or a police officer testifies on the witness stand. What are your thoughts so far?
I was a little surprised that the judge had actually let her opine a little bit in her answer and starting to refer to personal experiences with her family in this case. And the objections came forward, and they were able to stop her. But when a detective is on the stand and they're asked questions, this comes after they've actually had the time to sit and talk about not what you're answering or not what's expected to be answered, but just the general things that will happen during your testimony and what areas that will be asked about. And so, but then once you get on the stand and you're asked an open-ended question, then you should be able to answer it, but you don't want to linger and offer too much information, because that's going to give the defense fodder to jump in and start finding areas or holes in the case. Close-ended questions are pretty simple. It's either going to be a yes, no, I don't know, or I don't recall. And so when detectives are answering these questions on the stand, they do need to be careful that they don't linger into these areas that's going to open up a door for the defense to actually create a good defense in which the jury might buy into.
Yeah, very interesting, guys. And like you were saying, Melba, the jury's watching everything, and they're in there wondering and speculating about what's going on. So, you know, sometimes these are unforced errors that could bear on your credibility. If it bears on your credibility, it bears on the case's credibility. Great commentary, guys. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other end. Please stay with us. I'm Bob Bianchi, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. I have met so many survivors. Each of them tells a story that can be so helpful to women out there.
Everything was pretty good. It was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
I think everyone should support the American Heart Association. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. You can be part of that very important work that the American Heart Association is doing to save lives everywhere. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special T-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives.
I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children. I am very thankful for the American Heart Association.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives.
It's about trick plays, and if ever
local hero, national champ, now he's home and expected to save the franchise and continue to go forward with hope as the plan.
What's up, guys? I wish this was in person so I could buy each and one of you a beer or something.
Last play of the game.
Am I dreaming or
It's a perfect pass.
Made in Cookware was forged from a 4-generation family legacy, dedicated to providing professional-grade foundational tools to fine hotels and restaurants around the world. In collaboration with top chefs and craftsmen, we created an award-winning, lightweight product that heats evenly and lasts a lifetime. No gimmicks, no unnecessary design, just an open invitation to culinary excellence.
Calm. Download the free app now.
Buying a house is complicated and confusing, especially now. That's why who you work with matters.
Together with HomeLight, we find solutions for every buyer. Our team helps you get the home you love every time.
I need gas money, but I don't get paid till next week. What should I do?
Download the Earnin app to get paid early. Get up to $100 per day. No interest or credit check. Duh.
Download Earnin. When you decide you want to lose weight, you can try counting calories. Or you can count on 60 years of science with Weight Watchers, a program that turns 6 complex nutritional variables into one simple point system. Start today. Hurry, offer ends soon.
I'm Michael Bryant, and you're watching Law and Crime.
We are in South Carolina. If you're just joining us, Rita Pangalangan as well as Larry King, they are being charged with the murder of a 13-year-old handicapped individual who was nonverbal and in a wheelchair, having left her locked inside of a vehicle with temperatures that could have risen up to 130 to 135 degrees. A brutal way to die. Prosecutor calling it that they treated her like a suitcase and that she literally cooked to death. Right now, we're listening to the testimony from Agent Hallie Godley. She's an agent with the State Law Enforcement Division. She was the person who got a call, listening to the event as it just started to unfold. She's in direct examination by the prosecution, so let's head back to that South Carolina court.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. Let me hand you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 2, 3, 4, and 1. First of all, let me just ask if you recognize those photographs.
Yes, sir.
Are those fair and accurate depictions of the scene as you saw them that day?
Yes, sir.
At this time, Your Honor, we move State's Exhibit 1, 2, 3, and 4 into evidence.
They're admitted on objection.
Thank you. I'll first call your attention to the monitor, Your Honor. I've got this mark, but I also have them on the monitor. Let me go first to State's Exhibit 2. I think I have that so everybody can see. Tell me what this photograph is depicting.
This is what I saw when I got on scene, as far as where Cristina was. Also the vehicle, the Volkswagen was parked just as it is there.
Now, when you say Cristina, did you know her? Or did you just learn her name later, or did you know her name?
I knew of her previously.
Okay, so you knew her name. So when you...
Pardon?
Objection.
Basis for the objection.
There's no foundation for that, and it's highly critical.
The objection is overruled.
Thank you. So when you say Cristina, you know that's who that is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me go now to State's Exhibit 4. Tell me what's depicted in that.
Again, it's another picture of Cristina laying in the overgrown grass.
State's Exhibit 1. Is that a fair and accurate depiction as you saw it that day?
It is.
And tell me what that depicts.
Also Cristina's body after it had been rolled over.
And then State's Exhibit 3. Tell us what those are.
Blisters on her skin, which is showing down to her raw skin.
Let me go back, if I could, to State's Exhibit 2. Now, where are you when you walk up on this scene? And I know we had a photograph earlier that we put in for the overall scene as you were walking up. Where are you standing at this part?
As I walk onto the scene?
Yes.
It would have been in the direction of the jury box.
Okay. And where is Larry King?
To the left.
And where is Rita Pangalangan?
Inside the residence.
At some point then, did you go and get Rita Pangalangan out of the house?
I did.
And where was she when you went in?
She was just beyond the living room, pacing around inside the house.
Did you bring her outside?
I did.
Did she tell you what happened?
She did.
What did she say? Or excuse me, did she tell you? What did she tell you now?
She told me that she put Cristina in the car, went back inside to get cigarettes, and when she came back, the doors were locked.
The doors were locked where?
On the vehicle that Cristina was in.
Let me ask you one other thing, too. When you got to the scene, what was it like outside? What was the temperature?
I don't know the exact temperature, but it was extremely hot. It was August in South Carolina.
The car itself, I think we have that in State's Exhibit. Let me see if I can see this one. State's Exhibit 5. Put that up on the monitor. Where is the car located as to any type of shade, anything like that?
It was not in any type of shade. When I arrived on scene, it was in the open sun exposure. Yes, sir. Hallie Godley?
Godley?
Yes, sir.
Agent Godley?
Yes, sir.
Agent Godley, did you also have the opportunity to speak with Mr. King on the scene that day?
I did.
And how would you describe his emotional state when you spoke with him?
He seemed a little panicked.
He seemed upset?
I took it more as a panic, more so than an upset.
Was he still on the phone with 911 when you spoke with him?
Yes, sir.
So there's a recording of what was taking place that we could listen to some other time. I suppose 911 calls are generally recorded. You know that in your work, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you ask him what had happened?
I don't recall. Yes, sir.
Phillips? Thank you.
Agent Godley, you said when you arrived, Rita was inside?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that Rita's the one who got her out of the car?
At that time, no, sir.
But you do know that to be true?
Correct.
Right. And as far as that point, you weren't there after she gets her out of the car, and you didn't observe the way she acted after finding the body, is that?
That's correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
That's all this time, Your Honor. State Call Charles Jones.
Step down.
Okay, there you go. Over pretty quick. We're going to take a quick break as well, and we're going to get back on the other end with some analysis of that testimony. Please stay with us.
Brian Buckmeyer, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
This is Law and Crime Trial in a Minute.
I felt ill. I felt sick. There was no truth in it whatsoever.
Hollywood A-lister Johnny Depp sued his ex-wife, actress Amber Heard, for defamation after she accused him of abusing her in a Washington Post op-ed.
And he balled up his fists, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose.
But Depp said recordings and witnesses proved Heard was the abuser and a liar.
I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
She called him an old fat man.
It was a she said, they said, full of surprises, watched around the globe. globe.
In my head, instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs.
He never pushed me, kicked me, or threw me down any stairs.
The jury found Heard liable on all of Depp's claims.
Do you find that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
And Depp liable on one of Heard's. They settled during the appeal, Heard agreeing to pay Depp $1 million.
For the Law and Crime Network, I'm Anjanette Levy.
Attention, all users of the Weed Killer Roundup. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma after using the Weed Killer Roundup, you may qualify for financial compensation. Call Liberty Legal to determine your eligibility now.
800-883-5611.
In August 2021, a California judge ordered Monsanto to pay $87 million in damages to a couple who were both exposed to Roundup and later diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. It has been determined in court that Monsanto failed to warn Roundup users that the glyphosate in Roundup was a probable cancer-causing carcinogen. If you or a loved one were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other cancer after using Roundup, call Liberty Legal now to see if you qualify for financial compensation. There may be time deadlines, so don't wait. It costs you nothing if you don't win.
Call 800-883-5611. That's 800-883-5611. 800-883-5611.
I'm Imran Ansari, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Okay, well, welcome back. Dr. Lang, what do you think of the testimony that was presented by the agent? I mean, obviously, prosecutors like to go in a sequential formation. I was very, very interested. Maybe I'll get to Melba about that. Witness order is very important. Like I said before, I always like to lead or put the pathologist usually in the middle because it doesn't make that much of a difference in a case. But I don't know if I wouldn't have myself thought about leading with the pathologist. Nevertheless, they went with the detective because it's kind of sequential, and that could kind of make sense. How do you think she did?
I think she did fine on that second part there. There was no opining on her behalf, and she was answering the questions the way she should be. And so, but I think the sequential order might, in this case, might be a good way to start because introducing those photographs and how Cristina was found in the yard at the scene is actually going to open up that door to bring in the pathologist and start seeing even the more grotesque pictures that we would see. We got to keep in mind that she did burn. I mean, her body is blistered. These are third-degree burns. This is the highest level of burning that a body can experience. And so this is pretty grotesque, and I think that the idea of putting on this witness first might have been a way to begin paving the way for the jury to prepare for themselves to see what they're going to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I should probably rephrase it that you got to set it up. You got to set the stage, get the facts out. But I think they're going to get to that pathologist sooner than later. We'll see. What I found interesting, Melba, is the description of blisters running down the raw skin. Prosecutor really making a point of the horrific nature of this. And then I thought a very important point, too, was that indicating that Rita said that they went to get cigarettes and then came back and the door was locked. And we know the surveillance video is going to kind of contradict that aspect of the case down the road. How damning is that initial statement that she gave to law enforcement that I assume they're going to be able to prove was inaccurate?
It's going to be incredibly damning because it's basically going to show her state of mind that, she is lying right off the bat about how her child died and that she abandoned her child for hours on end and leaving her to die in the most grotesque and horrific way possible. So that putting in the jury's mind. So my big thing is primacy and recency, right? So start off with the strongest evidence you can and one of the strongest witnesses you can and end with the strong witness because those are going to be the moments that are seared in, not no pun intended, clearly, but that are really seared into the memory of the jury. They're going to be confronted by those pictures from the beginning, confronted with the defendant's lies from the beginning, and then wrap it up in the end with, a powerful witness that would bring it home, maybe somebody who cared for the child or something. else powerful that really resonates with the jury and stays with them as they go back into the jury room.
Yeah, you as a former homicide detective, we all have our cases that may really get to us or not. Most don't. And like we talked about in the previous segment, we try to compartmentalize, do a professional job. Personally, looking at the being at the crime scene was one thing, but looking at those photos and some of the evidence that's later preserved, and back in the day, they used to put them in empty paint cans. It's really something that the smell of it, the texture of it, you just never get out of your head. Burn cases are just horrific. How did you feel about them?
They were horrific. I had a number of times I was in the autopsy room for a victim who had been shot, but then there was a victim on the next table next to me who had been burned up in a home fire or a car accident. And you can't just go home and eat meat anymore for the next week. It really affects your mind. And then when you go back and I was looking at these, you can kind of catch a glimpse of the pictures of the body in this case. And I was thinking of some burn cases I had, and that smell, the memory of the smell comes right back to mind. And it's not as intense as it was during the scene or during the autopsy, but that's a smell I will never forget. And it resonates with you.
Yeah, and it just mutilates the body in such a way, but that smell is the thing that's always got. I always analogize like taking a pile of hair and lighting it on fire and multiply the smell by 100 in its potency. It's pretty unbelievable. Melba, let me ask you a question. The witness made a point, or on cross-examination, the defense attorney was asking, was King panicked or upset, and she was basically saying he looked panicked, not upset. These are wobbly kind of interpretations. I got about 20 seconds. Would you like to see a little bit more drilled down on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that panicked word is going to be critical, especially in closing arguments. That, because if it was my closing, I would say the defendant was panicked because he knew he was caught. The defendant was panicked because he knew that he killed his child.
Right.
The defendant was panicked because his secret is about to be discovered.
Yeah.
So panic is different than, oh my gosh, I'm very upset and traumatized over what has happened.
I think it's a very inartful, I don't know, sometimes words can escape, and I'm not sure, but you're right, that could happen. All right, that's it for the show, guys. Excellent commentary as always. Stay tuned for our regularly scheduled program. Have a great rest of the day. Be well.
I'm Jesse Weber, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Love you. Have a good day. Behave yourself.
Like, she goes to work at 3 in the afternoon and sometimes gets off at midnight. She works a lot. A whole lot. We don't get to eat in the early morning. We just wait till we get to the school. So, yeah.
Right now, here in America, millions of kids like Victoria and Andre live with hunger, and the need to help them has never been greater. But when you join your friends and neighbors to support No Kid Hungry, you'll help hungry kids get the food they need.
If we want to take care of our children, then we have to feed them.
Your gift of just 63 cents a day, only $19 a month at helpnokidhungry.org right now, will help provide healthy meals and hope.
We want our children to grow and thrive and to just not have to worry and face themselves with the struggles that we endure. Nobody wants that for their children.
Like, if these programs didn't exist, me and AJ, we wouldn't probably get lunch at all.
Please call or go online right now with your gift of just $19 a month. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this limited edition t-shirt to show you're part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives.
If you're coming in hungry, there's no way you can listen to me teach, do this activity, work with this group. So starting their day with breakfast and ending their day with this big, beautiful snack is pretty incredible.
Whether kids are learning at school or at home, your support will ensure they get the healthy meals they need to thrive. Because when you help feed kids, you feed their hopes, dreams, and futures. Kids in your community and across America need you now more than ever. Call or go online to helpnokidhungry.org right away and help feed hungry kids today.
Your dinner party was a hit. Your dishwasher took a hit. Your teen is giving laundry a try. Your dryer left you hung out to dry. Date night with the crush. Your toilet won't flush. Luckily, American Home Shield is there to fix or replace covered appliances and home systems to help you stay on course and budget. Protect what you don't expect. Visit ahs.com and get a free quote today.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
I'm a pet person just like you. If my pet ever got hurt or sick, it would just break my heart, and possibly the bank. So I got a pet insurance plan from Pumpkin. Bad things happen to good pets all the time. Pet insurance from Pumpkin. Get it before you need it.
What's going on? You're under arrest. That's what's going on.
He wanted to run, and he gets to go to jail.
Don't resist.
How much have you had to drink tonight?
Turn the car off. Take the keys out now. Control through Charlie. Now, get on your knees.
Her and the passenger both are going to be airlifted.
You need to back up.
All right. I ain't going to jail. Come on out with your hands up. Let me see your hands.
I love coming home to a 5-star experience with Hotel Collection. Luxury scents inspired by 5-star hotels for an inspiring coastal holiday or the dream trip you've always wanted to take. Check in to hotelcollection.com.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and